that Mary was resentful of her brother for getting attention because he had special needs?
She was resentful at every child,
Hmm.
not just him. She never really talked much about him.
Hmm.
Like I don't recall her ever having a concern for him or a any feelings at all. He was really never a topic for her. When she was with my mother, as they got older, when she would come here to visit me here in Georgia, she never even spoke of him. Um, she had a lot of jealousy and resentment for any child, like my children. She just had resentment toward them all. It didn't matter. Everybody in her mind was like a competition, or I don't know. She always had this. When she was real little, everything she come out of her mouth was mine, mine, mine. I mean, she literally went around the home like mine. That's mine. This mine. It was just she just had this. Everything was hers, and like no matter what you tried to explain to her, like, well, we're sharing the toys, or she would grab something and it's mine. Everything was hers. And she's still that way. And she's still that way. I'm honestly, I get upset. I love my mother more than any human being other than my children. And I think, Mom, I wish you had to deal with her now, because it's like being spoilt the way she was. It's like I see so much where it should have been handled differently, a lot different.
Do you think that it's ironic that the person that ended up dead had the same exact disability as her brother?
It's strange. I never thought about it until I heard, was listening to the coincidence. It was like I never thought much about that. I didn't put the two together, but you're right. It was really kind of shocking to me. I really think that she holds a lot more resentment towards someone who is handicapped, that it's got the attention from whoever that she desires. Like it's always been, it has to be about her.
So when she was making the claims that she moved in to quote unquote help Roberta, do you
Yeah.
even do you even think that she has the ability to do that for someone else?
No, no, she don't.
Mm.
You want my honest opinion, and this is just my opinion. And I kept thinking about something Mary had said about her. You know how she's repeatedly said that Roberta was pregnant when she died.
Hmm.
And I kept thinking about that because it's been made very clear she wasn't. She couldn't have children.
Hmm.
Um, I got the other night going over this with someone. It dawned on me. I truly believe that Mary went to his home and told him that she was pregnant, which is
Hmm.
how she ended up getting in there. Like, I'm pregnant with your child and I have nowhere to go. I can't live with my grandmother. I don't believe he wanted to mess up the relationship he had to that degree, but
Hmm.
I believe she just kind of forced her way in, and that's just my honest opinion. I don't know, you know, at all. No idea, but I just got to thinking about that statement she kept saying. And see, with Mary, you've got to hear what she's saying, and there's going to be a shred of truth in there. The word pregnant is probably the true little fragment, the true thread, but then she'll weave it around somewhere else.
When
That's the
she
way
was,
she does.
and I know I'm jumping around time, but
No, you're fine.
when she talks about her ex-husband Stephen and his behavior and how she said that he always stalked her, and she made him sound like he was this much older man, but it seemed as though he was only about a year and a half older than her. So
Right. And he
what
graduated from the same school she did.
so what do you make of her, if you ever spent time around both of them,
I
is there
did.
is there any is there any truth to anything that she claims about Stephen?
Stephen was a nice looking boy. I don't know much about his upbringing or anything, but he was, I don't even. I know they did meet at school, and then after school they got together somehow. But and they ended up getting married pretty quickly. Like it was a shock. It was really a surprise kind of thing. But no, I didn't live with them. They did live on their own for a short while. They moved in with my mother when they got married.
Mm,
Well, my mother, after a while, she couldn't take it no more because neither one of them are the cleanest two people in the world at that time.
mm,
He
mm.
might be a whole lot different now. I don't know. But it used to drive her crazy because his shoes would leave scuff marks on the floor. So, and that would drive her insane, my mother, that is. So she let them move out to her land that still had a mobile home on it. So they
Mm.
lived out there for a short while. And, you know, I
Did your
most
did
go
your
ahead.
mom did your mom ever talk to you about any kind of altercations or fights or kerfuffles between those two that would get
Well,
out of hand?
she would say they'd argue. Like I said, Mary wants things her way only. So, like, if any fights that ever occurred with Mary is because she was probably told no about something, or um, I never heard about anything dramatic like him hitting on her. Because my mother, of course, she would have never tolerated that. None of us would.
Veruca
You
Salt.
know,
I have a term for it. I call it Veruca Salt syndrome, where she just acts like a spoiled little brat. Daddy, daddy, I want it now kind of thing. Is
right, and that's the way she
yeah.
always was, and that's the way
Hmm.
she still is. Like, all these fits this week all boiled down to her getting the money she needed to get her marijuana.
Hmm.
That's all it came down to. And she will push that level and take it further and further until someone gives in to give it to her. Like she did my mother that way. She would stand in front of the door and cut herself screaming at my mother and me. I was trapped in there a few times. You want to see me hurt so badly. Here, what then here you go. And she would do that and just not stop until she got what she wanted.
What
She
was
will
the
carry it
what was
to the
this
full extreme. Go ahead,
what
I'm
was
sorry.
what was the stupidest thing you ever saw her hurt herself for? Like something that you were like, I can't believe that you go this far for something this insignificant.
$20 for
Mm,
marijuana.
okay.
It was past midnight. My mother and I were sitting in her room watching the TV. I had my little grandson with me, and he had fallen asleep. He's right beside me, he's sleeping. He wasn't quite 2 years old. And Mary comes and blocks the doorway, demanding the money and the keys to the Jeep to go get the marijuana right then. And like I said, it's late. And my mother said, "Well, it's too late, Mary.
Oh,
You don't need to go out this late."
oh, she should have just
That
called.
would
She really should have just called Pizza Hut, like I've always said. When I worked back in Lexington in the mid '90s, we had a little saying. It was like, if you wanted to score weed in the middle of the night with no references, call Pizza Hut. That was
well, that
she just could have called Pizza Hut. It's like, just
she should. I wish I would
no.
have known. I would have, Lord, I would have called before, because I'm like, the phone was on the side of the room as my mother was.
Yeah.
And this was going on for a long time. I mean, it seemed forever, and I was scared to death my little grandson was going to wake up. And every time she would get her attention diverted behind her, which was one of her boyfriends, the one named Corey, he would try to get her attention, and she would look away. I would, beg my mother to hand me the phone so I could call for help. It finally, my mother finally did get the phone, and I called, and the police were banging on the door. She was still in the doorway screaming at the police and screaming at us, and um it was terrible. It was terrible, and it was
Well,
it
what
was
would
very
you
traumatic.
I'm sure. What would you say her most harmful lie has been throughout her whole life? The one that really hurt the family the most?
Um the family, or me personally,
The
the
family.
one the one that hurt her mother the most was hers. just saying about her life at home and her dad beating on her. No, not the mom, but the children. You know, it bothered her that she made them sound so like using them as drug mules. That was probably the most hurtful thing to her. And she cried and she was like, just because her mother's never watched any of these videos, none of them. Um,
Probably for the best.
it is, and she asked me to not let that be. You know, I've always been the one that spoke up in our family about things, or the one you would call if you needed somebody to yell at somebody, then you would call me to take care of it.
Hmm.
Um,
Mary
and
tried to tell. Mary tried to tell a really detailed story about. She said that she had met her older sister at the gate, and her sister ripped a necklace off of her and said it was hers now. Do you have
yeah,
any idea what that is?
well, here's the thing about Mary said that Mary went. She said I went to see my sister for my birthday, and when she come to the gate, which is funny because her sister didn't live at a gate; she would have been at a door. A
Hmm.
gate, the gate would have been at my mother's house. There was a security gate there.
Hmm.
Um, so, like I say, she's taken a little truth here and there, and
Hmm.
I think the two of them had gotten in an argument at one point, but not had nothing to do with no gate or birthday or anything like that. And her sister probably did rip her necklace off, but she didn't rip it off to steal it. I'm sure they were, because them two would get into a little scuffle, when they would disagree on things. Oh, Lord, I just burnt something there. But now that I can imagine she probably did rip it off. But the story behind it, what Mary's telling, isn't at all the truth. What she was saying that her sister had stole her groceries and she went over there to get it, and she just comes up with some good ones.
Well,
She just mixes and matches.
I think the tough thing for the family is that when you have a person that thinks everything in the world belongs to them, then she constantly feels like she's being stolen from.
Exactly. She always has felt that way when, she it's very hurtful for the family, period, because, like, the honest we are all very private people. In fact, I am the only one that even started anything like the channel to and that was my only way of speaking out without causing someone else pain. Like, when Virgie's channel got taken down, it hurt me so bad, and I felt like it was my fault
No, it's so
that I
don't feel like that. No, no. Now Virgie probably got popped for playing like Soulful Strut at 75% or something like that.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did.
you know,
Yeah,
but
it's
see, I didn't know anything about YouTube or anything, but just it took so every time I would make a comment on her videos, she would delete it, and um, it was just I couldn't stand seeing my family being trashed like that. We're very private people. None of us have ever went on social media and acted or done anything like that. We kept things in our family, and honestly, if my mother was still alive, it probably would still be that way.
Ooh,
I just
th-
couldn't take it, and starting the channel was I thought, well, if instead of me causing anybody else any, because it hurt me, like I said, it hurt me terribly when that happened to him. That I thought, well, if she comes after a channel, at least it'll be my own, and it won't be um it won't be someone that
oh,
because I care about
put it
all
this
of
way.
them.
Put it this way. If she comes after my channel, I'll just call up my agent and she'll just get YouTube to just put it back up the next day. And they'll all agree that hey, it was not harassment.
I've been trying to learn and be careful what I say or do when I'm on someone else's stream because I don't want
Oh,
nothing to happen to anyone.
if you
Because
really feel kind of scared about it, I always kind of hide it by saying 404 error. Like that's just a kind of a way to confuse the voice algorithm is to just say,
okay, I wondered why people said that.
yeah, it's like, oh, you darn 404 error kind of thing.
Yeah,
does
got
anybody
it. I didn't know that.
did anybody else in the family follow her videos other than you?
I think there was one or two that would kind of catch up with them every once in a while,
Mm,
and they'd let me know. And this was around the time that she wrote the book, and
mhm,
then they were like, then when she started getting very, very personal and like really
mhm,
trashing, my daughter, when my daughter died, Mary took and just ran off the chart with it. And that was when I couldn't take no more because it was like, now you've gone, you went for years. She talked about me, and that was fine because I was probably the only person in her life that told her no, or I refused to let her do anything that would hurt my mother, or, you know, I was the one that would if the neighbor would call me and say, Mary's having a fit down at your mom's, and I would leave immediately, and it takes me 7.5 hours to get there, but I would leave and go and surprise visit. Mary didn't get away with a lot by me because I didn't mind jumping in my car and going.
So what
Nothing
was
was. Go
when Mary was
ahead.
young, what was her mom and dad like?
Her mom has just always been the same. Her mom is a little tiny thing, like 4'11", and has a smile on her face all the time,
Mm,
and just very content where she is at. Like, she if all she had is flour and water, then she would make what we used to call them,
Yeah.
whatever she had, she'd make good with it. And
mm,
she was content that way. She didn't work. She stayed home. So she was always home with the kids, and um she's just always been um always a smile, always content. Never really wanted more than what she had currently. That her and I were very different. Very always sweet, just so sweet most all the time. Now when she'd get mad, now she just like the rest of us in the world, she could get a little spicy, but she was very content. I mean, her husband was the first man she ever loved, and he was the last man she'll ever love. She was content where she was at. Mary would have probably been more content in life, or maybe would have strived a little harder if she hadn't have been taken like to my mom's, and you know taken to all the amusement parks or anywhere she wanted to go. She got to go, and she got to do things that sometimes when you're beginning in life you can't afford to do. I mean, it's different for my older children than it was for my younger children. Got to do more because we were more stable, and you
correct.
know we it was just a different difference.
Mhm,
She got to do things, and then she would go back home to a family that was okay where they were at. They didn't move a lot. They lived and they were content there. In fact, they were buying the place that they lived in. uh,
mhm,
Mary just thought that she was entitled to the life that she had over at my mom's house at home, but they couldn't do what my mom could do. My mother, was at a different level at that point in her life,
mhm,
But I guess it just really confused her, and she began to think she was entitled to this other life, and how dare them not give it to her? And to her, that's abuse.
Once
She
right.
they
looks at that as abuse.
once
Mhm,
a person gets their first taste of opium or heroin, then it triggers like a receptor in the brain, and from then on, it's just impossible to turn that receptor off. So she's just going to be constantly chasing the dragon. That's why they call it chasing the dragon's tail, and that.
yeah.
And
So
she's
Kathy,
yeah.
one of my questions is, listening to her stories, has there ever been any stories where a lot of people who do what Mary does, they end up almost like leeching off of other people's tragedies and traumatic
Mhm.
stories. Have you ever heard her tell a story that
That
not
didn't
necessarily,
belong to her.
Yes, that was not
Yes.
her story. That it was like someone else's tragedy. It happened to someone else, but she plagiarized it and took it as her own.
Every story she tells. It started with a book called It. That was the very she read that book so much. At the age she was
Mhm.
like 12, I guess. She read that book so much that the cover of it was worn out. I mean, she just carried it everywhere she went, and she just read it over and over. That's where she started. But then,
You know what's
my
funny?
mother
We
what?
months ago when she was saying some of her things, I said, this reminds me of a book that I had to
Oh,
read
no.
in grad school. It's called A Child Call It,
That's
and
mm,
and it's interesting that you're right. There is a lot of stories that she kind of ad libbed and took parts of that was that gentleman's particular story,
yeah,
including
she worded it
including the lice and the abuse, and
right.
she says it almost verbatim.
Right. She's that was her very first um this is my kind of story right here. She started with that because see she never ever said things like this when my mother was alive. You never heard her talk like you do now. None of us ever heard the stories that she tells now. It's like it's like her desperate way of getting she wants people to feel sorry for her to keep supplying everything she needs. And her biggest thing is see, now she wants people to believe everything she has ever said. She wants you to believe her now because she never dreamed and she never ever dreamed that anyone in our family would ever come out publicly and say anything.
Mhm.
That's because she knows how we are. She was a part of us. She knows we don't do that. We just
I,
don't do that.
Yep.
So it shocked her so terribly when I came around and said anything,
Oh, I bet she was
even
scared. She was freaked out. I bet.
yeah, but she was counting on proving, convincing that she was telling the truth and that I was an abusing liar and that she really thought maybe she could combat that with, her shenanigans. She could get people to feel sorry for because she'll cry on command. And, even when she was a little girl, Lord, I felt for him. If a little child cried around me, of course, I'd give them anything they wanted to keep them from being sad.
mhm.
I mean, I was guilty of doing the same thing. I've done it with my own. I I fight doing it with my grandchildren because I don't want them to be like her. You know,
Now,
I
Vance,
walk away
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I
sometimes because I don't
there,
want to see them hurt.
Well,
there's
But
there's a lot of married videos, but I bet you that someone who's very dedicated could literally transpose her stories to passages from A Child Called It, and
you could, and
you
then
could see firsthand where she got some of these
mm,
stories. I
if you
where it
guarantee
all
it.
began for her. She
there's
started with that. And then it was she did read Sybil. She
Oh,
loved Stephen King. Loved Stephen King. Uh, and then she took you see in our family, there's I'm sure a lot of families have a lot of things that happen in their lives that are not pleasant, like the things my mother went through. Um, they're very real. And I've heard Mary take those stories of my mother's, which should never be looked at as victimized. My mother was a conqueror. She was victorious. She fought through a lot of pain and a lot of grief to become the woman that she was when she left here. And she instilled that into us, that we didn't have to remain victims. I'm very emotional tonight and I do
it's okay.
okay.
apologize.
It's all
No,
right.
it's okay.
That's what we're here for on that.
Yeah.
It's
I
your
mean,
show now, so it's all right. We're
yeah.
your helpers on this, so we're gonna help you.
You know,
So yeah.
I'm more determined today than I was yesterday to not letting her continue to deflame and just discredit everything that we truly are. Because what we are is from my mom, you know. And I'm going to say this because I feel like I can now. But, my sister has been, she's been terminal, for a few months now. And as of right now, her daughters, the other two, Mary's sisters, are sitting with her, and hopefully she'll still be with us tomorrow. But she's, it's almost over.
Yeah.
And it hurts me so much that it makes me more determined today that she's not going to continue doing this. Even though my sister's laying there, um, semi-conscious, she's still got a smile on her face.
Mhm.
She's
Well,
still sweet as.
well, that's because she's surrounded by people that are making it about her instead of themselves.
I pray I get there to say goodbye um, in time.
You
But
will.
even if I don't,
It,
I know my sister knows how I feel, and she, she knows what I've been going up against with Mary, not to the degree that it is. And every time I've spoke with her, she continuously apologizing to me for her doing this and for the pain that she's caused. And so I never could tell her just how bad it really is with Mary. Just how bad she has trashed us and um, just turned us into these immoral people, like like it's like we escaped from the prison and are out there just taking things from people, and which is far
Well,
from the truth.
if everybody listened to Mary and she was the only voice out there, everyone would think that your family was like From the Hills Have Eyes,
yeah.
Exactly. Oh, she liked that movie too, by the way.
I know she does because she
Yeah,
plagiarizes it all the time because there's
yeah,
times where
that,
she said stuff I'm like, I saw that.
Hmm.
yeah,
I saw that on The
she
Hills
does
Have
that.
Eyes.
But see, she counts on you not seeing it or putting it together. She thinks she's actually smarter than
Well,
everyone. If you ever listen to her
she
talk, the words that she, uses or the way she tries to present herself, she tries to present herself as she wants you to think she has mental issues, but at the same time, it's all like a game for her. It's that she wants you convinced of one thing, but in the same time, she doesn't want you to be smarter than her. She thinks that she's smarter than you. She's playing this game, and it's like strategy.
well,
Um,
she I I don't think that she has the mental illnesses that she claims. I do think that she probably could get those mental illness diagnoses very easily because people they see you for an hour and they make their judgment, but they don't get the opportunity to look at hours of your behavior and your words.
they
And
they hear what you're saying.
she's ill. She's ill,
You
but
Google enough, you're right.
not the level of illness. I mean, she
If
demonstrates a lot of tendencies of a
if sh-
sociopath.
if she was truly as mental as she says, she would be on disability. Uh,
Yes.
and she's been denied twice.
Hmm.
She can fool a lot of people, but when it comes down, to getting, she can't fool everybody,
Yeah.
and that's where she struggles. And she has tried. That I know of personally. She's applied twice, one
Well, the
time in
tough,
Florida and once in California.
well, the big mistake that she keeps making is that people, when they're doing Social Security now, they don't just evaluate you in a bubble. They'll look for you. They'll search for you, and if they find her social media presence, and all they have to do is put in her name and date of birth, and
They got it.
50 million documentaries and
Yeah,
videos are coming up, and they're like, "Well, yeah, well, I'm not going to be the one to say yes to this one."
I've
right. She
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I probably done lost it because I probably got my own mental illness going on here.
I
She
I know it. I have it where sometimes I have a thought and then like I'll forget it 5 seconds later and then I'm like, what was I thinking about, kind of thing. And I know it's because I'm 51. I'm like, oh god damn it, I hope I'm not developing mental issues or something like that. But uh go ahead, you two go ahead, because I've got something queued up that everybody else is seeing in the chat, hopefully, and it's just really fascinating that I'm going over
I
right
think
now.
I forget things a lot too, but I don't think that I'm losing my mind. I think I'm getting older, and I get more anxious, like, to complete things. I'm one of those people. If I start something, I have to finish it. Um, I have to. I've got to. I got to. If I begin a journey, I have to end that journey. And it's like for her, she frustrates me so much because it's like I almost feel like a light in the dark. The light in the darkness is like she's a kind of evil that I never thought I would ever come up against. I know
You
it sounds crazy, but
you think that she's towed the line so badly that that other people in the family will get to a point where they've had enough and that they'll also be like you and speak out because they just can't take her shit anymore?
well, that's about to happen because
Mhm.
for like my niece, her youngest sister, um, she was going to come up and she was going to speak months ago before her baby was born. I kept her secret because I didn't Mary's a very evil person, and she
Mhm.
would have done nothing but harass her, and
Mhm.
she was already at a high risk, and I
Mhm.
wasn't willing to take that risk. So
Mhm.
I wouldn't, I kind of kept her out of the way and away from people. And
Mhm.
I've been, I was fortunate. Like Virgie, he knew, and Adonis Paul, they all knew, and they really helped me with that. Whenever her sister would get brought up, they would, kind of turn it somewhere else for a while because they knew the truth and they knew I was protecting her, and I didn't want anything to happen. I didn't want anything to happen to that baby that I would feel any.
Mary
She's
Mary talk
she's she's
Mary talk
evil.
Mary talks a lot about how she's, you know, a victim of harassment, but when you talk about how she would harass the family, so what does she do to harass you guys? Like,
Now,
can you?
me personally, she's put all my information out there, all of it.
Mhm.
I she has not placed my home phone number out there, and she doesn't have my other number. But now my sister that lives across the street from me, in fact, her number is still posted out there to the point where it's no longer in service anymore. But she put the phone number out there when she climbed in the refrigerator that night. She had the world got to see the phone numbers. They were all active numbers. She has even put my oldest sister's full name and where she lives out there. And what was so sad about that is the two women, my older sisters, are 74 years old. They both are widows and they both, live alone. And neither one of them have ever watched YouTube or even actually been on the internet. One of them doesn't even have internet. She
Mhm.
doesn't even have cable. In fact, she uh, watches movies instead of, watching, having a dish or anything. So, and I tried so hard to do something about that, but I didn't have any luck there. But luckily, I feel blessed that so many people out that you guys all didn't jump on Mary's bandwagon and attack them. As far as I know, neither one of them received any phone calls except from Mary. She was the only one harassing them. I
Hmm.
went over.
When Mary harasses them, what does she say?
She was just constantly calling them repeatedly. They wouldn't answer the phone, but she just kept letting it ring and ring for days. She kept calling and calling. That's how I ended up with her number. It's because I went across and got it off, and just to see how many times she was calling that particular sister. And
Do you
it was
think she?
like
Do you think she was
She,
calling them because she thought that they were old and vulnerable and would give her money?
she wanted to yell at them and tell. At that time, she wanted to tell them to make me get off YouTube, to make me stop. But what she didn't realize is they don't want me to stop.
No,
They
no,
don't want to leave this legacy behind.
no, no.
They don't.
We want you to build it. We want to build a show with you and Eliana. That would be like, the most healing force on the internet at that point.
Mhm.
I spoke about her the other night, and I'm always scared I'm gonna say her name wrong. But
Oh, it's all
you
right.
know, she claims that Royce and JJ, all these bullies out there, all you guys are bullies, and she's the victim. And what is so ironic to me, and I've said this, and I hate to repeat myself, but
It's okay.
she, that that they, JJ was the one that had found her videos,
Mm.
and Kitty B had gotten into a little spat with Mary on there. See, I used to always kept track of her because she is a very dangerous person. So I always wanted to know where Mary was. So I never spoke and never, she didn't even know I was seeing it. And when she would talk about me, it was fine. She can talk about me till the cows come home. I don't care. And I never had the need to get involved until she brought my daughter in it, which had already passed away, and I couldn't stand for that. But when she claims that they're the bullies now, but yet, what was the first person who let us speak? That was on Daywave. Daywave, I had my daughter I went into the chat. My daughter made the call for me because I didn't think, of course they don't want to hear from some old lady. So I thought, well, she's more, she knew how to articulate better. So
Mhm.
I thought, well, and my daughter went on there very briefly, and talked to them. They opened that door, which allowed us to step in it, which allowed me to say what I needed to say, to try to clear some of the garbage that she's put out there. And they're the very same ones that let that young woman on to speak about James.
Mhm.
Her bullies are actually our heroes.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know, I
I believe that.
I hate
Thank
I
you.
really hate to think what could happen to that young woman. To me, James is very scary. I've known people like him. He is a scary one, and the
Mhm.
way he talked about that young woman, and the way he was obsessing about her made me fearful for her. Very
Mhm.
fearful. Very. You don't know how many nights I just thought, I how afraid I was for her because I've encountered people like him before,
Mhm.
and we've, as a family, have encountered people like him. So for
Mhm.
me, I was looking at it in a different, scarier way. So it was so nice to see her be able to get out there and publicly say the truth, which is a deterrent for men like him. If anything was to ever happen to her, everybody that's ever saw them shows would know where to go. You would know who was behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
kept thinking he could have. So like I said, her bullies are top of my list as far as people I would trust with my family, with my grandchildren. If they needed somewhere to speak up or have someone protect them, I would push them right through y'all's door. I would say, y'all go make a phone call. They'll let you, I believe that they have saved more than they realize. I think they've done more good than that they probably will ever know. All of y'all have. And
Thank you.
Thank,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
each one of y'all. And you know, like the passing of Irate this week,
Yeah.
Mhm.
even though I have never personally met him, it felt like I lost a good friend.
It did to me
That's a good
too.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel that way about all of you. I think in the time that I have been around, I have only encountered two people that have, been to me, they were just negative. One of them was well, both of them, I believe, are her little followers, but, you know, two people. that's not many. You know, the people that have hurt me the most on here is herself.
Mhm.
You know, she has caused me more pain than these so-called strangers out there. I feel close to so many of y'all personally in my heart and my thoughts every day that you know, I could never be. I could never show y'all how grateful I truly am.
We are a family now because it's like when I grew up in Kentucky, there's the saying that if a stranger, his car breaks down on the highway and he asks you for help, you don't treat him like he's a stranger. You treat him like he's a friend of the family, and you make sure that he's looked after. Nowadays you can't do that. That's the sad part. Is because
Mhm.
you
Yeah, but
used to
I,
you used to be able to do that. You used to be able to
I'm still
yeah.
I'm still that way, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I'm still more. I'm a little more careful
Mm-hmm.
now because only because of her. With
You have to be.
sharing my family, meant a lot to me, and it was her that tried to hurt them. Like the video she made, just looking, she looked like a alien demon screaming at little children that she was going to ruin their lives forever, and everything she was saying wasn't even true. But it made me become a little more protective over them from her, but not really anyone else. You know, that was very hurtful to think
Mhm.
that.
Cathy,
I,
she always tries to perpetuate constant victimization, like she's Job from the Bible.
oh,
So
she's
every
read Job.
yeah. So here's my question. The thing that undoes all of what she says is, can you give some examples of when she's been a harmful person and a violent person to other people?
She is like, okay, physically. I know she's admitted to it, of hurting my mom, which I had no idea until after she wrote that book. That's when because there was a lot of times, like I said, that I would go to go there because the neighbor would hear her screaming at my mother.
Mm,
And I would constantly, ask my mother. And my mother, because my mom knew that I would not hesitate. I would have had her arrested immediately. I would have made the change that needed to be made. I would have it would not have worked out the way it did for her. The night I like I said, I'm trying to prove it. I'm working on it. Um,
It's okay.
the
Take your
night my
take your
mother,
yeah.
the night mom broke her hip, I I had a problem with it from the very beginning, and I didn't really dwell on it in the very beginning until the nurses at the hospital had told me what was in the report from the paramedics, and they were asking me questions, and then that got my mind thinking about that, and then I started asking questions. The paramedics, when they found my mother, was the next day, and she was on the other side of the room, and that was when I kept thinking, how did that happen? And I replayed it over and over. And I had spent more time in in Florida with my mother than I spent here at home. I never even spent an entire winter here, and I've lived here since '97 because I would spend, I was there more than I was home. So I know my mother's little rituals. I know where she sat when she was on the phone. I know where the phone was. Um, that bothered me, and the more questions I asked, the more disturbing it got to me. And I kept asking my mother in the hospital, what happened? How did you fall on the other side of the room, hanging up a phone that was sitting right next to you
mhm,
by the couch?
mm,
And she said, oh, she really would never tell me. And the last 2 weeks of her life, when my mother kept begging me not to leave her, she did not want me. I had been there for a while at that point, and she was getting worried that I was going to have to come back home because I had a family here, and my grandchildren, and she knew I was missing them. And she was like just worried I was going to leave her. And I promised her I would not leave. And then when they were talking about letting her go home and having, we didn't call it hospice. We call, because I
Yeah.
didn't want my mother to know, because I knew she'd be afraid
Yeah.
of dying, So we just said, a nurse will come by and help you, like in-home nurse. And
Hmm.
she was worried that when she went home that I would leave and come
Hmm.
back home. And while the whole time Mary's making it very difficult for me to stay, she 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 had big scene up at the hospital that they had asked her to leave the hospital. She had upset. That was the day before my mother passed away. She went up there screaming because I had stepped out for a few minutes to talk to my husband who hadn't been there. They came for the weekend because I told them, if they wanted to see my mom, they needed to come, and they did. And I had stepped outside to talk to him, and she went in and kept screaming at my mother that if she came home, then and she didn't want me to stay. She did not want me around. Um, it was
So,
pretty ugly.
so you're so you, so your mom's laying in the bed dying essentially, and
Yes,
she's
yes,
in there
she was
and she's in there
screaming.
screaming at her about what she wanted.
Right, she did. She kept telling her, "If you go home now, Cathy will never leave if you don't tell her to leave." Because she knew that mom was asking me not to leave her. She
Mm-hmm.
knew that. She'd been in the room. She knew that. She kept asking me to not leave her. And she knew that I was going to stay one way or the other until my mother felt like she wanted, was okay, Cathy, I'm tired of seeing you. Now it's time to go.
Mm-hmm.
Or she passed away. Now Mary knew where my mother was at, and she knew not to say anything because I don't think Mary would be around today if she had a went in there hollering, that telling my mom things that she shouldn't have didn't
Right.
need to hear. But
Mhm.
well, back to the hip. I got
No, it's
sidetracked.
okay. It's
I'm
But
okay.
sorry.
honestly, what I truly believe happened, because I know that room. I've got a picture of that room. I could show y'all one day. I think Mary, when my sister calls every Sunday night, Mary was correct on that. That's probably the most truthful thing I've heard her say. She called every Sunday night at 8 p.m. And my guess is, because I know Mary, she wanted to go out drinking to karaoke or whatever she wanted to do. And she always needed no less than $100 to go do that, which she got from my mom. And my mom probably, for Mary's drinking and driving was becoming an issue for my mother because it was her name and her insurance. And she told her, no, not no. I'm not, no. You've already been drinking. You're not going to leave here and drive drinking. Mary would, you see what kind of rage she goes into? Well,
Yes.
that's nothing new. That's not a new thing that she just developed. I can see Mary getting in my mother's face, raging, wanting money and the keys to go out. And I don't believe she shoved my mother. I don't believe she did that, but I believe that she kept getting closer to her. And as your instincts, especially when you're older, what do? You start stepping back a little bit. The closer someone gets to your face, swinging their hands and their arms, but your reaction is to back off from them. You know, the only place for my mom to go would be toward that corner, if if they were right where they would have been standing. I think she just got right up in her face and it caused her to stumble. And when she stumbled, she fell. It broke her hip. And Mary didn't call 911 until the following day because she had hoped that she would probably just die in that corner. And it was last year. I found a post on her Facebook where it was December of 2015 was when she had posted it, and it said um, that this guy had stood in my here's what she said. This guy stood in my grandmother's kitchen 2 months ago and promised me that when my grandmother died, he would move in and help me, pay the bills until basically she got everything that she could get. And he left her. Now grandma's dead and he left her.
Mm.
So I'd seen that before, but for some reason it bothered me enough that I kept going back to it last year when I was trying to gather some things for Virgie and AP, and I kept something bothered me. I kept going back to it, and then finally, it was like this little voice in my head kept saying, "Look at the dates. Look at the dates." And when I saw the date, it was in December of 2015. If you went back 2 months, that's when my mother broke her hip. So she broke her hip a little bit right at 2 months before this post. That was the guy she was seeing when my mother broke her hip. And then there's picture of her and this guy having a hamburger, somewhere in between that, while my mother was in the hospital. In fact, I was there at the hospital, but see, I'd never seen him too much. But I saw and again, I looked at the date, and it just it just clicked to me that he said that to her, and instead of you know him being the one to do anything to my mother, it was like that was Mary. She was gonna just ever how she could cause this accident or something, or wish it on my mom that she'd be gone, could inherit all this money that she thought
Mm.
my mother had, and him and her were gonna live there happily ever after.
Mm.
I really, truly, and like I said, this is just me, and I I could show you the pictures and the dates and the things that made me come to this conclusion. Um, I've been trying to find a way to get the reports from the paramedics that picked up my mother. I have a letter from the hospital that I received after I came back home. You know, to piece it together, if I could have her charged, if I could just have enough, if I could come up with just what they needed to actually prove it. And that was one reason I read that book. In fact, I probably need to read it again because there
Mhm.
may be something in there. Because,
Mhm.
I was so upset when I read it the first time and I never read it again. I probably need to read it again just to
You should.
see. I think I need to. I think I'm a little more um, clear. Like you see things that you didn't see before,
Mm.
kind of thing. But I really think because when she admitted to doing what she had done to my mom, like hurting her and stealing her medication and things, back then Mary would act so innocent. I mean, it was unbelievable this act that she could put on to being this poor innocent victim, even though she's the only one in there that would have possibly have done whatever was done. She could actually almost convince you that she had nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
She she's even she got so angry at me one day, and I can't even remember what it was, but I was there, of course, that she started screaming at me in my mother's living room with my mother and my daughter present, telling me that she could actually kill me, that she could kill me, and she laughed and said, "And I can get away with it." She didn't know that I knew the details of the murder that I knew. And I snapped back at her and I said, believe me, I know. I know more than you think I know. Because see, they all tried to keep that a secret from me, because they knew I would have done something about it.
Mhm.
And when I say them all, I meant Mary and my mom. My mother did not want me to know the details of all that.
Yeah.
Um, but I did know. And so when she threatened me with that, I looked at her and I said, "Oh, don't think I don't know. You don't scare me whatsoever. I know you have gotten away with a lot of things.
So let me ask you, because you're a person that knows her personally, have known her a long time through her whole life, and you've seen her at her best and her worst and everything in between. When you hear about Roberta's death, what's your opinion on her, the amount of involvement she had in that whole thing?
Yeah, she I know how she is. Like you said, I've known her a long time, and I know what she will go to get what she wants. Even if she doesn't really want it, it's the principle of the thing for her. She decided she wanted this guy because, well, who knows? But she was determined to win. It was she was determined that he was going to be hers and not Roberta's. So when she started on him, and I know this because of back then, I knew this, that there was a lot of her it, just berating him and begging him, and doing, if you really love me, if you really want to be with me, then you would have, I would be living there and she wouldn't be.
Mm,
I know you've met women like this, and maybe some men. I hadn't never seen too many act that way, but you
I
know,
have.
if you really love me, then you would do this for me. Not that she may not have really wanted him. It was just the whole point. Was she felt like she was being treated like the second and not the first. She wasn't the everything, because he was taking her to motels when Roberta got to stay at home, and he would go home to her.
Mm,
You, she didn't like being that second. So she would start on him. If you really love me, then you would be getting rid of her, and we'd be getting married, because she talked about going to look at wedding dresses and having a proper wedding and all this.
mhm,
Because for her, it was, even if whether she really wanted him or not, she didn't want to be second, even for a
mhm,
minute. So I have no doubt, and I know how she is. She probably screamed and berated and went on for a long time telling him to get rid of her.
mhm,
And I do know from back then that there was an exchange where she told him ways to get rid of her. Now, that finally my mother told me. And she said, "Oh, but she didn't mean it. You know how she is. She didn't mean it. She reads too many of them books." I know she did. I think it shocked her that he actually did do it.
mhm,
I don't know if, I won't, I wouldn't be, I can't imagine that she really thought he would
mhm,
actually take her life, but she got what she wanted. She got rid of her, and she hung out there for 5 weeks. And the reason I believe she left when she left is because it was getting warm, and I know they couldn't have possibly have dug a hole deep enough, that the heat and the smell wouldn't have eventually, caught someone's attention. So, and the first one to call wins. If you're in a dispute, the
oh yeah.
first one to call is the one
Mm,
they talk to.
mhm,
Um, and she was smart enough to know this. I don't believe he was very bright. To me, he seemed like a bit of a little bit slow, a lot slower than her, like a lot slower than her. Uh, so she knew what she was doing when she left. And
yeah.
was she slightly afraid? Maybe, yeah, a little bit. But I haven't never really seen her too afraid of anything.
Mm,
She was never afraid to stand up and get in anybody's face. I've seen her get in a police officer's face because she got into a she went to buy marijuana. This was in Fernandina Beach, and she thought, well, I'll just keep. She took the marijuana and the money and ran. All right, she did this. Well, they knocked on the door where my mother lived.
mm,
Yeah, and she was getting ugly with him. And
mhm,
he's like, "I'm undercover. No matter what you say, it was you, okay? It was you."
mhm,
Now, my mother kept her from going to jail over that incident, but she's just that way. She will
Mm,
get in your face no
mm.
matter who you are. She's not afraid
So
to
then,
confront anybody.
what do you think? What do you think about when she's on these videos talking about how she's so scared of people? But then you see all these videos of her in front of hundreds of people, whatever, at karaoke, or you think about her, like, you really think she's afraid of people?
I know she's not afraid of nothing.
I don't think
She's not
she.
afraid
I
of
don't think she.
people.
I don't think she's truly afraid of anything. I think that she wants
Mm-mm.
people to think she's afraid because that's how she grifts people.
Yeah, she wants you to think she's timid and been victimized so much that, that's the way she wants you to think. She wants people to believe that, but yet she can't control her own actions. And see, she'll Google everything in the world, but yet she doesn't Google how a timid person acts. Like sh- she'll Google every disease known to man, and she'll Google, other people's tragedies, but she's failed to Google, well, how would you know someone maybe have been a victim of anything by their actions, by their mannerism? She hasn't done that part yet.
Well,
So,
she's never gonna be a good enough actress to fake that to make it believable, no matter how hard she tries. It's
right,
just
but she,
she's incapable of what I've seen from her is that she can grift, but she's incapable of empathy. And if you don't have any empathy, then you don't know how to mimic
right, she
true
doesn't.
sadness. It's all alligator tears and bullshit. The
She
only
she doesn't have that compassion for anything or anyone
there's only
except her laptop.
there's only one time ever in every video she's ever made where I actually believed her frustration and sadness. And that was the video she made when you came around and exposed her, and she was just crying and about the inheritance and everything else, and because it was about money. And I said, well, that's the first time that I actually believed that she's sad because it was the time where she just really wasn't getting what she wanted.
For a while after I showed, the documents and um, showed that she was wrong, period. She didn't talk about that part of it very much for a very short while, but
Mm,
now she's going back to it because, see, she's hoping that she'll get some, or she knows she has some new people around, so she goes back to her old beginning of how we stole all her inheritance.
her old
you
grifts.
know
Yeah.
for those one or two new people, you
Mm,
know and then if I say anything like a video or someone else does, then she has to try. She just tries to mow over it. She tries to scream louder and um, just not give you a chance to
Oh,
say anything.
yeah.
She's
so
like a. You know what she reminds me of? She reminds me of a raging ballless bull.
Yes,
That's all I see
absolutely.
when I see her on these little rampage, just going up the
hello into
street.
the round.
Hi, Melly.
Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Hey,
Yes, hi.
Hello, hello there. Hello, Randolph. Hello, Mike. Hello, Aunt Cathy.
hey,
Greeting
how are
from
you
Germany.
doing?
Hi. I'm fine. Um, before I say anything, I'm not here to take any sides, and I'm certainly not. I certainly can see why people are frustrated with Mary. I certainly can understand that. And as I'm getting to sort of get into the story, she is. I can see why people are very frustrated with her personality. But I do have a couple of questions. For example, um, when everything I've been reading, any article that has been published by the papers in regards to this court case, all of the articles, everything that's been published, actually states that the police said that Mary kind of escaped the situation, and she was the one that actually informed the police. So I, and every article says the same. And I
Right.
so far have not had any access to any other documents. So I'm just
That's
going by
true.
what's been.
That's true. She was there for 5 weeks. and she left when he went to work that day, and she contacted the police and
Yeah, she
told them,
crept out.
yeah, she told them about she walked out the front door. She told the police about the murder, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's very true. It's like I said earlier, the first one to you know it was what I was saying, like the first one to speak is usually the one they listen to. But she also says that he was riding around looking for her with a bag of lye in the back of the truck. That's not in any of the thing. In fact, the police report states that they contacted him and he come right down and talked to him. He wasn't driving around looking for her. He worked for a
Right.
car wash during the
Mm-hmm.
day, not at 2 and 3 in the morning.
Right. But the
So she-
point I'm trying to make is that it sort of seems to well, it doesn't just indicate it, but it actually states that Mary was threatened to be killed herself by Kenneth McBride.
Well, that's what she said, but there was no evidence
no,
of that.
that's one of the jurors actually says that.
Yeah, I've read that. It's on a different. I've seen that. It's a victim. It's a part of the. I don't know what it's called. It's been a long time since I've seen that where they talk about victims of murder, and it has a picture of a bird on there, and the juror states that he thought that in time that he would eventually kill Mary too. That was her opinion.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I mean he was a pedophile. And
that's very possible. He could have killed her one day if he met someone else like Mary who wanted to take Mary's place instead of Mary wanting to take Roberta's place. So yeah, I'm sure that could have
I
happened.
mean in that time when they were there for the 5 weeks after he murdered her, he was threatening her. She was basically held there, and she had to creep out of it. And the police was actually very thankful to. It seems. I mean, I can send all the links that they were pleased that.
No, I've read them.
That she actually had to was so brave to actually creep out and contact the police. So I sort of wonder where this narrative comes from, that she was sort of there, happy in the house, and just sort of.
I don't believe anybody said she was happy. I'm sure once that she realized that he did do what she wanted, and after Roberta was murdered, and it actually was a real thing, I'm sure there had to be some kind of fear in her. There had to be. I mean, I don't know any human that wouldn't have some kind of fear. But he didn't have her tied. There was no evidence of her being tied up. And I could find the report that states all that for you too. I'm sure that it's available. That shows that she had no marks on her. In fact, she never told them that she was held. She said that he threatened her once or twice. And on the stand, they asked her, when did that occur? And she could not provide a time frame from when he said that, when he physically threatened her. So there's probably a whole lot more. There's probably things that you've read that I haven't, and vice versa. But this was when the trial was going on, and they asked her about him threatening her, and she said once or twice he threatened her, and they asked for more information, like specifically when was it, before, during, after, when, and she could not provide that. She didn't provide that.
I mean, okay, obviously there must be some court documents. And again, before you all jump on me, please.
It's okay.
Please.
It's okay.
I'm not here to take anybody's, I'm just really objectively looking into this. And I would love to have some you obviously now have access to some documents which I've not seen. I mean, I see in the chat, for example, Mary never told the police she was held captive, but every report I'm reading says that the police is said that that the police actually had the impression that she was being. I mean, I would be very scared if I'm saying, "Hey, it's my whatever boyfriend, I'll get rid of this woman," and suddenly he murders her. I don't think anybody would be expecting that to happen.
Right. I don't
You
believe
know,
that she expected him to follow through. I think when she was
no,
throwing it out there, like, she told him ways to get rid of her, but she never thought that he would actually do it.
no.
I don't believe that at all. I
I
don't believe
think
she
I agree. I think that she lives a very rich fantasy life, and I think that
right.
she thinks about violence and horror and gore, but for someone to actually go about it, I think what she really thought is that she would be the winner and will be able to kind of laugh in this woman's face as she takes the
Right.
mantle
As
of
she
being the new woman of the house.
right, as she gets kicked out, as
But
she's being rolled out the door, not buried in
legally,
the
Yeah.
backyard.
legally, he was never charged with kidnapping. Mainly,
Right, he
probably they
wasn't.
didn't have enough. They didn't have enough
No.
evidence. But
But
the
he
issue,
was.
but
Mm,
but the issue is that because of they also report inconsistencies in both of their stories. So
Yeah.
the problem is that the claim that she was kidnapped for them is no greater than her current claim that she said recently that she thinks that not only did he strangle her, but he had sex with her body and engaged in
Right after
necrophilia.
yeah, but see, not, the police could. I don't believe when they got there, when they became part of the investigation. She was already buried in the backyard for 5 weeks. So a lot of
mm,
the only facts that they had to go by, like her being tied up and to the bed and him having sex with her, would come from Mary because she was there. That's I
mhm.
don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but they
And then
they would they would be no one else to collaborate that or
Yeah.
discredit that.
but then the difficulty was is that she didn't realize that people knew more about the case than they did when she was making videos. So when she was saying that she was kidnapped and locked in the truck in the car, people said,
Right. Well,
"Well, there was no way to lock you, and you weren't in a trunk because it was a truck." And she said, "Well, he
it
told
was
me
a
if I leave the truck, he'll kill me."
right, and it was an older truck. It was an older truck. I'm not sure if it even would have an
Wouldn't even
alarm on it, but
wouldn't need it. Any kind of alarm system would be more expensive than the truck itself.
right, it was an older truck. I don't believe that. I think that's just what she said. I
The
believe she
problem
sat there.
the
I
problem
don't.
for the biggest problem for Mary is that Mary decides to place her own flavor and spin on a story, and it calls into question everything, even things that might be true. So
Right, you have to kind of.
even though that she might have kept him because she has been so inconsistent and she continuously adds to the story to try to test people to see what
It
they'll believe, it
it
becomes
changes.
it changes so much, not even subtle changes, sometimes they're massive changes because she's utilizing it as a grift, and
Right.
you can't utilize the facts of a case as a grift because it's only just going to incriminate yourself, or it's just going to go completely against the investigation and the facts that everybody got their hands on. So there's no way at this point, because she's such a dishonest person in so many other aspects, to determine whether or not this particular thing is true or not. I think that she probably stayed for the 5 weeks, was pretty scared at first, and then she went all the way to go to be with this guy. She had to figure out shit. She had to kind of get her ducks in a row, learn the lay of the land, get what she could from the place. And then when she had the opportunity, she made her move, threw him under the bus because she's like, I ain't going down for this shit because if we both stay quiet, we're both going down for
Right.
this shit. But I think that the reason she didn't leave was partly maybe slightly due to fear until she got the lay of the land, but also partly because she had to go through the house and find what she wanted.
She knew, she had moved in there before. I mean, she got mail there. Like when she claims that she didn't know his name was Kenneth. She was getting mail there in the same mailbox as his electric bill came in. There's she, when I talked to my mother then when Mary was living there, I'm pretty sure it was before the murder. It had to have been. But, she was just setting up home there and calling herself the caretaker for Roberta. Truthfully, Mary couldn't take care of herself. I mean, she had to be told to take a shower every day. and sometimes it would insult her, and she just wouldn't do it. She just she just would refuse to do it. And when she would refuse, my mother would refuse to let her go with her. She'd be like, "You can't go off like that. We're not
Mm.
we're not we're not going to have people running out of a restaurant because you refuse to shower and
Mm.
smell better." I mean,
Although, I
I, mean,
mean,
I
And the important thing about that is that's in direct contradiction to all of her stories about how they all lived like a bunch of lice-covered vagabonds.
right, which is not true. I mean, like I said, I have photographs of going to pick up Mary. Actually, at the one visit that I had the most photographs of is when her sister had the baby, her first baby, and we're taking pictures of the baby, and of course the house is in the pictures. The house wasn't filthy. Like I said, it just wasn't up to what Mary thought that she deserved to live in. She thought she belonged in the home that my mother lived in, um, not
Mm.
in a mobile home. She just thought she was better than that. So it wasn't nasty. It wasn't dirty. There wasn't lice jumping everywhere. If it had been, I wouldn't have been there. And I certainly wouldn't have had my daughter with me sitting on the couch holding a baby. But you can see the walls and the floor, and there's nothing like that. And it wasn't like that. I mean, was it fancy or um, a big home? No, it was a double wide mobile home on a piece of property that they were buying. Um, it
Mhm.
wasn't it wasn't like that. I mean, my
Well, let
sister
me,
didn't work. She stayed home and she cooked
Kathy,
every day. Yeah.
Kathy, let me ask you the bigger question. What was Mary's room? What did that look like?
Well, it was always a mess. My sister had to clean it. In fact, just recent about I guess a month and a half ago, my sister and I were talking about that because I was curious because I don't recall ever really going into her room. I really had no reason to go through and plunder around through their home. But I asked her about that because I know how it was at my mother's, and I asked my sister. I said, "Did you have to clean her room?" It was just a general conversation because one of my grandkids had done something, and I was making them clean it up. You did that, you're gonna clean it. Well, we were laughing about that because she was on the phone with me, and she said that Mary was always bad about throwing empty cookie bags and just trash under her bed, and that she would just go in there and she would clean it and clean up behind them, which is I figured she would. I mean, that's what she did. Mary didn't clean. She didn't care about. She didn't mind. And Mary does not mind a mess. She never has. Some people are like that. She doesn't mind. It doesn't bother her. It irritates her when you want things picked up and orderly. Like if you saw the last place that my mother lived, everything in there is nice and neat and picked up and clean and vacuumed and mopped and swept except Mary's room. You know, you could hardly walk by it. No one used the bathroom that was across from her room. When we would visit, we would all go to the back and go to my mother's because she she's just not a clean person, and it doesn't bother her, and it never embarrassed her. It just didn't bother her. It wasn't that she was raised that way. She wasn't. None of us were. It's just the way she personally was. Uh,
Mhm.
and you can contribute that to being lazy, or she just expected everyone to clean up behind her, just like her mother did, like my mother did, and like I'm sure I did when she was little. Um, she just expected people to keep doing that for her. And the older she got, the more my mother would ask me to try to help her, help her um, dress appropriately, or to fill out applications to get her, because my mother knew she wasn't going to live forever, and the more I tried, the more resentful Mary got toward me, and I kind of understood that. In fact, I didn't didn't. I was always very careful with the way I said, because I never wanted I don't want no one to have a bad self-image of themselves. Like my mother, it would bother her that Mary would gain too much weight, and she just didn't care. But I didn't approach that in this. Maybe I wouldn't just come up to her and say, "Look, you're just too big. You got to back off the cookies." I'm just not that kind of person, nor I would never do that. I mean, my own daughter struggled with her weight, and I never ever wanted her to feel less than. You know, I wanted her to feel good about who she was, and well, maybe I didn't feel it right. I don't know. I
It's
I
okay.
probably didn't,
No, you're fine. It's
but
okay.
I just didn't believe in being that harsh. And I've become harsher with Mary, probably more now than ever before, because I just can't take no more.
Because it's tough. Well, it's tough love. Don't think of it like you're, you know, don't think of it like you have to uh do something drastic and like it's tough love. You're just explaining to Mary that hey, you need to put down the bottle, you need to get some help. And this is
Yeah, but even
Yeah.
now it's
yeah,
hard.
it's a
I
Yeah.
still
yeah.
can't. I still hold back. I'm still holding back. I hold back so much only because I don't want to be that person. I
Mm.
don't want to be that kind of person. Um, do I want to? Lord, yes, I do. I want to lash out so bad, and like I said, more so today than yesterday, and probably more tomorrow than today, um,
Hmm.
because she's just to go through and to know each person in my family like I do, and her two sisters doing what they're doing right now, as we're speaking. They're
Mhm.
not at all like her.
Mm.
Um, my sister doesn't deserve and didn't deserve the things that's been said about her, and thank God she doesn't know half of it. In fact, she doesn't know most of it. Um,
Okay.
she only knows some of what she said about me, and she has constantly apologized to me and constantly apologized to me for putting me in the position to be the one to say anything, or for allowing my mother to ask me to do the things that she did, to try to help Mary, which,
Hmm.
yeah, I seem to, like I said earlier, I'm very emotional right now.
It's okay. That's
And,
that's we're a family right now.
Yeah.
It's like a
and when,
And
if
please
I'm,
don't feel, if I may just interject, please do not feel all my questions are just objectively related to the actual murder case. And I'm
yeah,
basing my questions on just what I'm reading. And what I'm reading is not corresponding with what I'm hearing. And everything else about Mary is completely and utterly frustrating. I totally get that. I really would be so frustrated with her as well.
I don't know.
So
I don't know. I can't
yeah.
understand, I don't know what you're reading. I mean, there's a lot of
uh,
inconsistencies in what you hear from Mary.
I've
If you
actually
took
I
No.
actually
It's just the published articles relating to the court case.
oh, okay.
well,
um,
there's yeah, I've had
uh,
them for a while. I don't know if I still
yeah.
have them or not, but yeah, I know what you. But you got that trial went on for I believe like 2 years. So their perception in the very beginning was a whole lot different than it was toward the middle. And
Well, it
um,
seems to indicate that, they wanted a death sentence. The jury was actually decided quite quickly. They wanted the death sentence for Kenneth McBride. That's what it says. I mean, all of the
right.
articles.
It's Florida.
Why do you
And
suppose?
It's Florida.
Why do you suppose the judge overturned that? In your mind, why do you think
the
he would?
judge,
Yeah, why did you think the judge, in
the
your
judge,
opinion, why do you?
why the judge returned that and made it into life,
Right. Yeah, why do you think he did that?
because that was actually quite unusual for a judge to do. And he actually, the statement is that he wants McBride to suffer, because if he was charged with life, that's actually more of a punishment, because he was such a
Then death.
bad, irredeemable person. And the judge overturned the jury's. Sorry, I'm German. I'm struggling a little bit. And that's what it clearly states. The only reason why the judge overturned that.
But it says more than that too, though. There was more written than just that. He also states about that he. I'm just got to paraphrase it because I don't have it right here in front of me.
That's okay.
And if I try to look it up, I'll lose you guys in the process. But he also talked about that he believed that Kenneth had some remorse toward, some remorse, and that he in my opinion, the judge was saying that he knew that this was a coerced crime. And even though Mary wasn't charged as anything, there was nobody that walked out of there not thinking that she pretty much talked this big dumb guy into doing it. Now maybe her. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I have a small theory about that as to why the death conviction was overturned and became a life conviction. Is the judge wanted to preserve Kenneth's conviction as much as possible, because if Kenneth is sentenced to death, he's automatically given an appeals process. By putting him in life in prison slows down that appeals process to a near crawl. So
it guaranteed him in prison.
That's not what it says, though.
Well, there's more there than what you've read. There's more written. I'll try to come up with it when I get time to.
Yeah.
And try to put it out there for you, through one of the guys or all of them. But there is more to that than just that. There was more said than just that. There's actually quite a bit more, to be honest with you. I see what you're saying. If that's all you've read, if that's what you've read, then I can see why you. But it's not the only thing that's out there. There was more. There's probably. Yeah. And when I get done dealing with what I'm dealing with right now,
it's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm done, I will address that for you. I'll do my best, or I'm sure one of the other guys has it. I know they all have a lot of the reports and things that, I may not even have, because I trust them completely to preserve all that for me. Or for themselves, or for whatever reason they want to. The point is they preserved it, and I know it's there. And then there's the court reporter transcripts that I need to get. And if I do go, which I have I'll be in Florida tomorrow, or by Sunday. And if she hangs in there till I can get there, I may just go pick them up myself, because I'll be right there.
Okay.
And Cathy,
I'd love to see if there's some other information, but I'm just thinking, wow, nothing that I'm
I know
reading
what you're seeing.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're reading. It was the first articles that I read before anyone even knew anything about any of it. It's some of the first things that I had read, because I had to kind of find a lot of things out on my own, because my mother didn't want me to know the truth about everything.
Right.
Because I would have protected my mother a whole lot more than I did. And she knew that. And, she knew that I would have. So that was there were some of the first things I read as well, which still didn't fit with what I was being told then at home, privately. It didn't fit what I was being told. And it wasn't until the book came out that the inconsistencies was even greater. That was just shocking to me. That was shocking.
Cathy, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So So Sarah had a question in the chat. She said that, you know, Mary always talks about how that she believes that you were jealous of her your whole life. But
Oh,
when did you actually, where do you think that that comes from, or why do you think she states that kind of
I
belief?
think that's really hilarious. Her and my son are the same age. My son were born the same year. Mary was born in February of 1985. My son was born October 1st, 1985. Um, so there's no way I could be jealous of her. My, she also says that my daughter tormented her all Mary's life. My daughter is 4 years younger than Mary. Virtually impossible for that to have ever occurred. She says a lot of things that are just insane. And the reason it's not, I wouldn't think the jealousy thing. I think what happened for that, for she's kind of reversed it, and it makes me sad that this did happen like it did. But like my mother had a way of saying like, well, Mary, just just act more like Cathy did, or when Cathy was this age, this was this way. I was, it was. I don't think my mother meant to be cruel, nor did she think that it would be taken resentful. But and it was the same for me. I heard how you need to be more like your sisters, my older sisters. They were pure and sweet and virginal, and you should you should be more like them. I mean, it was she just did that to me. She did it to Mary, except she used me when it came to Mary. Like she would say, Mary, like, can get Cathy to show you how to do your hair because Mary, when she was younger, had curly hair, and I have very curly hair. And over my life, I've learned things not to do, like not. I can't grab a hairbrush and start brushing my hair because if I do, I look like a huge, giant, scary, furry monster. The curls stretch out into, you know, it's scary. Okay, frizzy, big ball of fuzz, frizz. So my mother would say things like that. Let her show you how to do your hair so it don't get all crazy. Mary just got resentful of that, just very resentful of that. And I can understand that. I do. I mean, there was times I resented my older sisters, and there was times it made me rebel a little bit in a different direction because I didn't think I could be as good as they were. You know, I
It's
just
like
couldn't.
sitting at Thanksgiving dinner while everybody's telling you, why can't you be more like your brother?
Yeah, it'd be more like like my mother was really very, like I said, we were very private people, but we were very proper people. When my mother was a true Southern woman, and when we went to anywhere, you didn't put your elbows on the table, you didn't chew with your mouth open. As a female, you didn't sit with your legs all spread out and turned inside out. You sat proper, you sat up straight. You, when you were at the table, your elbows didn't go on the table. You didn't chew with your mouth open. You didn't talk with food in your mouth. I mean, it was just proper. We were raised proper, and we were raised not to run around town and just we didn't air out no dirty laundry. If we had a problem, we dealt with the problem, and the problem stayed within the house. We just weren't that way. And I know Mary heard that a lot. And listen, one time I had to write these words because my mother told me no, and I asked why. One too many times, which once was enough. I said why. I had to sit at our dining room table and write, when my mother tells me no, she means no the first time or the 100th time. The next time my mother tells me no, she means no. I had to sit and just rewrite it over and over until she allowed me to, till she believed that I understood the next time she told me no, that I wasn't to ask again. Subject was done, over. There would
You
be no
think
why.
so that's a tough way to be raised. But my question is though, so this is the same person that, Mary was living with, and grandparents tend to be softer on their
Y-
grandchildren than
Well,
they be
yeah,
on their
I'm
children.
softer. Right.
So here's my question. I mean, did Mary have to incur similar punishments?
No, like you said, my mother, by the time Mary came, my mother was softer on everything, all the grandchildren. Like she would tell us, "Oh, don't be so hard on them." Like my children all behaved, or there was a consequence. I never spanked my children, but I was always unique in my punishment. You my daughter, I had her picking peas one time because of something she had lied to me about. I would come up with different punishment, but it wouldn't. I never hit them, and I think there was a couple of times I would take things away. I mean, I cleaned the room out a couple of times and put it in our little shed outside. Stripped the room, left nothing but the bed because they wouldn't clean up the room. And I'd warn them, you do this again, and you're gonna have nothing to worry about cleaning.
Do you think it's possible that when she says you were jealous, that the reason why she thinks you were jealous was because that she was treated better than you by your mother?
No, I don't really know what she would think. Uh, I know what I know. I was busy raising my own children then. Like I said, Mary was born when my youngest son was born. So really, there would there would be no time for me to even sit around and think about that. I mean, my childhood was done. I was an adult. You know, they really that wouldn't even come into play on my part. Now, I can't say it isn't in her mind, but for me, when I had my youngest son, he was my third child, so it was it wasn't no time for me. Now she may feel that way. It's very possible, and there's nothing I could do to change that. But as far as I'm concerned, there would be no time for me to even think about that. Everywhere that Mary did go, my children went as well. It's usually like when we would all go to Disney World or Universal, we all would go as we all went. It wasn't like Mary would be singled out. And that was things I did. I mean, I was fortunate enough to go when you paid $20 to get in, right after they, when I was like 15, 14 years old. So no, for me, it wouldn't have been. No, because I pretty much, yeah, there was just no reason for me to feel that way. I think, I don't, that's puzzling. That's a good question too, something to think about. But
When everybody would get together, I mean, did she interact with everybody else like the other kids? I mean, did
she,
she play with other kids, or did she just kind of stay to herself?
when she was younger, she would play to a degree, but like she was all, like I said, it was always this mine, 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 me, me. It was it, where it because she would be there alone most of the time, without any other children around. So when like all the grandchildren would come, it was hard for her because it was like she had to share what her grandparents. She had to share what she considered everything as hers. It was hard for her to do that. It 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 was a struggle for her, and my mother was always like, well, or she would try to explain to her, well, that's really not just yours. Now you get to play with this, say this toy more than the others because you're here more. But that doesn't mean no one else gets to play with it because it's purchased. Like even me, I have well, when they were all little, my grandchildren, they had toys here. They had toys here, and they were for all of them to play with. In fact, they were here for the neighbor children if they wanted to play with them. They didn't necessarily belong to any one child. If if you understand what I'm saying.
Was
So
there
there
any
was.
was there
Go
any
ahead.
real was there any relative or like cousin or anybody that she took a shine to, it seemed like, to be the one that could kind of get through to her when everybody like.
Yeah, there was my son
Mhm.
actually. Um, she really she always just you know just she always liked him quite a bit, and um, I would say she would trust him if there was anything to talk about. He would have been the one she would have talked to. In
How
fact,
he
go ahead.
how he feel about all this
About what?
about Mary?
Well, like I said, right now I'm pretty torn up, and I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired of just tired of dealing with all the garbage that she spewed out there. It was never something that I thought I would do or would even want to do, is get out there and have to even it's hard to even say anything negative about, like, for me to even admit that my mother made a mistake and not telling her no, or just something little like that, is hard for me because, you know, I don't like to me, it's being disrespectful. This whole situation has been hard for me. But the day that I read, and it was removed, YouTube did take it down, and I'm thankful for that. When she spewed about my daughter that I had just lost, and she distorted and lied, it tore me up. And at that time, I'm sitting here in my home with my daughter's two sons
Yeah.
and three other little grandchildren because my youngest daughter couldn't handle the loss of her sister. And I'm looking at five little boys looking at me. I had just lost my daughter, and they're counting on me, and I'm wanting to fall apart like nobody's business. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to run away. I wanted to just get in a hole and stay there. I wanted to go with my daughter. I had just lost my mother. When I read what she was writing, and I even asked her, please don't do that. If you want to know what happened, contact me. But don't make up stories like this, please. I begged her repeatedly for days, and she just ignored it and just went on, and it got worse. So when I got to looking at these boys and my daughter's two sons, and I'm thinking the only thing that they will have to ever go, if they ever Google or want to research family after I'm gone, the only word that is out there in the world on the internet is Mary's. And that bothered me. That bothered me because every word she spoke was lies. And there would be no one here to tell them, oh no, hun, that's not that. Don't listen to that. That's not true. You know, that's just a relative that went off rail. There would be no one to tell them the truth. And I could not allow that to be that way. For me, it wasn't even about, I would have never even talked about the murder so much if it wasn't, for me, it was very deep and very personal. And then recently she started trashing my mother. And I don't know if there's one video left that I left up, which was part of 3, but it was the last one about my mother. That was the hardest thing I have ever done in my life, was to share this as discreetly as I could with people that I've never met, when I've been raised not to do that. But I felt it was important so that later, when my grandchildren or great grandchildren are curious about something and there's no record, because we lost our home to a fire, and in that fire we lost everything. baby pictures and, and all I could think was, if you had nothing to fall back on and you searched and the only thing that come up was her and her garbage, that is what you would think of your family? Is that what I want to leave my grandchildren? Is that what I want to leave the two sons of my daughter when that's far from the truth? I
Yeah.
couldn't do that. And that's what, now that I'm in. But yet it's still a struggle for me. It's still a hard struggle. And it's hard um, to admit things, like that one video I was talking about earlier where I honestly, because I can't talk to Mary on the phone, so it can't be personal. So the only way for me to do anything is through the channel. And I sent her a heartfelt message because I was thinking that maybe I didn't understand when she was younger a lot of things that I do now. Like being depressed or seeking help for depression. Um, I was a little bit more of dealing with things on my own, and I realize now that that doesn't work for everyone. So I made a very heartfelt message to her, and I meant every word from the bottom of my heart. I meant it. And I opened up to her, and she tore it to shreds and never even really heard a word I said. Never heard the words that come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And never felt any type of emotion whatsoever. She had none. And it was truly, it, it was something I would have never done, is to open up, not just for her, but for anyone else who ever stumbled across that. But her reaction to it was so sadistic and so evil that I sat here and I thought, there's just no light left in her. There's no light left. I mean, I cried for days because I could not find one little night light on in there. Not one. Because I don't open up like that to people. I don't I don't cry in front of people. I don't, I don't share them type of deep emotions with people. I wish maybe I should have. I realize that now, now that my grandboys are 20 and 18 years old, I realize that by me being so um, a closet crier, I had just lost my daughter and I was holding myself up and by me, they were looking at me as their example and I failed them. I should have allowed them to come and sit with me and grieve with me and cry with me. And I see that now that they're growing and I see them being a little harder than maybe they should be,
I think
blocking emotion.
I think one thing I should say right here about I mean irate prostate, and and this is something that I learned when I was in science class, and it's called the conservation of energy rule, and it states energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it transforms from one form of energy into another. And even just if you don't believe in God, you still have to believe in the conservation of energy. That energy that would go into us is coming from somewhere. It is converted into us, and upon what we would perceive as death, that energy, according to the conservation of energy law, is carrying on in another form. And right now, irate prostate is in another form. His energy is in another form. Your sister is who's about to pass away. She's we don't understand the process of death, but we shouldn't. I don't know if we should be afraid of it or not. I think we should just think of it as we're carrying our energy into another form, kind of thing. That's the best way I've always looked at it. I thought about that right after my dad passed away, and it's something that I always kind of say to myself, you know, conservation of energy rule. There's an energy out there that, is still going to carry on. So that's my thinking on that.
Well, yeah, I believe that. You know, when I'm gonna say this, and then we'll quit talking about my daughter, but my
It's okay.
grandson, this was my mother. Like I said, I lost my mother, and just a little over a year, I lost my daughter. Well, the boys, a couple of years, about 2 years later, one of my grandsons, her son, was kind of he wasn't acting out, but he just wasn't doing right at school. And it was because everything he cared about was gone. I mean, when his mother died, and then his father, who had been with her since they were in fourth grade, he kind of just lost it. And like I said, I was here with, I was it. You know, my grandson was acting out. And when he came home that day from school, I really had to think about what I was going to say, what change would I hope from what I was going to say, and how could I get through to him that this will never ever occur again, and that he, will know who he is. And when he came in that day, I asked him, I said, "Who are you? Who are you?" I said, "Who are you, Jeremiah? What are you, Jeremiah? Who and what are you?" And he said, "Well, Grandma, you know who I am. I'm Jeremiah." I was like, "No, I want to know who you are." And he just was puzzled. And I told him, I said, "I'm going to tell you who you are. You are my grandson, and I am my mother's daughter. And everything that I am is because of her." And I admired everything about my mother and her ability to overcome things that most wouldn't or couldn't. I said, everything that was good about my mother was given to me, and I carry it with honor. And everything that she gave me, I gave to your mother. And your mother carried it with even more honor and made it even better than what was given to her. I said, every life is a story, and a story will go on and on. When you read a book or a book exists, it'll be there in written word forever. And I said, you have a decision to make. You're either going to pick up what has been given to you freely and with much love and with much bloodshed and much pain, and you're going to continue the story, or you're going to write the word the end at the end of it, and you're going to make your own story. And at the rate you're going, it's not going to be a book that I want to read. It's not going to be one that I want to associate with. It's your choice. And I said, but I'm going to tell you, as while I'm living, don't ever think that I will ever approve of you writing the end behind my daughter's name. So you better make your choice and make it today on who you are and what you are and who you're going to be. And he knows I'm crazy, but it took him a while. And a couple of days later, I took him to get his hair cut, and we were going in to get his hair cut. And these two elderly ladies, older than me, walked up, and my grandson instinctively opened the door for them to go in first. And I was so proud of him. I mean, I was just standing there proud of him because he did it instinctively, because that's the way he was raised. That's who he is. His mother raised a gentleman. That was part of his story. And he let them in, and they just were in such fascination that they just encountered a teenager with manners, that she paid for his haircut that day. And she told him, if you ever knock on my door to take my granddaughter out, I would be so honored. And he got back in the truck with me, and he told me that day, he said, I get it. I get it. I know who I am, Grandma.
Yes.
I know who I am, and I know that you will never, ever have to worry about my mom's story ending. And I said, Jeremiah, we grow up we take what's good and we put it into our family. We take the things that were terrible and that we didn't, you take the terrible things and you don't put it in there. You don't keep repeating history. Take the good, look around, find the good, add it into your own story. But don't lose those basic things. Don't lose that strength that was given to you. Don't lose that you don't have to be a victim and you don't have to just dwell in that pity party. You can make it better. Don't lose who you really are and give it to your children. And then if you give it to them and they give it to theirs, then guess what? We never die. We will live forever
Exactly.
because the story will continue.
That energy,
It will never
exactly.
die.
The energy that we put into our words carries on. The energy that we put into these live
Yeah,
streams
it will
count.
go on.
Yes, exactly. So,
It will be a series
mm-hmm.
and not a one book. But
Mm.
I know I got off base, but
No,
I
you're
don't even know
fine. You're fine.
what we were talking about. But um, I'm sorry we messed up your whole
No,
night.
no,
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 not at all,
no.
Cathy. I mean,
This was your night. This was for you. We needed you to have.
I
You needed a voice again because irate prostate. He was doing his best, and
he
now.
was, and I think he wanted so much. There was he would have. This is, I'm telling you things that I would have probably eventually have talked to him about. He never pushed me, um, which is really nice. And like I said, he was like I said, I may have never personally met him, but I truly feel like we lost a friend.
Mhm.
We lost a good person. Um, I may not always, I think it's Melanie, right? Is that correct? Was that her
Yes.
name?
No, I'm still here.
You had asked me something, which I thought about quite a bit, about
Yeah.
supporting a AP show about him,
Yeah.
about the thing. But I thought I thought about that, and I was like, there was just too many. I could not. I'm not real good with typing or writing things, so I knew it would take
That's
me too
fine.
long. It would have
I
took
did
2 years
say
for
that.
me to write it. But I may not agree with a lot of things, and a lot of people may not agree with a lot from me. Like, you know, a lot of people don't believe in heaven or hell or God, but I do, and
I
I'm
do
not
as well.
ashamed of that.
Yeah.
You know, but if you don't agree, I'm not just gonna write you off because you don't agree with me. You
Oh,
know
well,
what I
thank you.
mean?
Everybody else seems to be wanting to lynch me now. I'm glad I'm in Germany. I'm Cathy. I'm, I'm being, I'm being pursued here. Everybody's hating me, and I'm really
No,
just objectively
nobody should
looking at
hate you.
this.
It's actually life is a whole lot better when you put a devil advocate in there because it actually invokes thinking. When you have someone that is asking questions like that, you're not being
Yeah.
hateful or mean to me
No,
at all.
no.
And
I'm not
now,
trying to be
when
hateful.
in
I'm
in
just
the
looking at
words,
things objectively.
but I just wanted to tell you, when yes, I do support Adonis Paul. I support Virgie. I support all these guys. I supported Irate. I support
Yeah, but
all
that
of
was
them.
my question,
I don't,
Cathy.
but no, do I support going to do anything? And he would never do anything like that. And the thing was, he changed his title in the middle of the thing. It's just he, he had to deal with a whole lot from her. Like I said, I may not approve or would I condone or would I allow, and he knew that. Him and I've talked about this.
Okay.
That it was just too many words for me to write. Let's just
No,
put it that
that's
way.
fine. And it was really just about this thing about sponsoring Adonis Paul to go and pee on
Yeah,
on first
right.
grave, and he did have a live stream about that. Indeed, he did race, and you said you supported that, and
Of
I
course, I
thought that
support.
was
I don't
No.
support
yeah.
him. I don't support the action that you're speaking of. Like I said, he threw that in at the last. I mean, as far as supporting, I did. I think I gave him $20 that night or something. Was it
Mhm.
for him to go pee on somebody's grave? Lord, no.
No.
You know,
But he
for
called it.
heaven's
He
no.
called it that. He called it that.
He
He called
he
that.
called it,
I mean,
but that was he
yeah.
didn't call it that till after. He called. In fact, I know. I mean, I had already given him that money that night before he changed that. I mean,
Okay.
that title of that, and then he starts talking about that. I mean, sometimes I
Right.
may donate money to one of them before they even start or at
Well,
the
that's fine.
end. I mean, it just depends on it. But as far as sponsoring him to go pee on anyone's grave, much less my nephew's, no,
No.
I would have been the armed guard there. And was just saying, I think you're funny, and I like most of the things you do, but now this is too far. You need to back off, or you're gonna get a little,
Yes.
gonna have a couple
I
of
am.
little shots in your
Yeah.
butt.
Yeah.
No,
And
so
that's perfectly fine if he's sort of. I just thought it was a very strange thing for him to name that,
yes,
even
it
if it was
was.
a joke. And then he
And I
said
think
he
it was.
supported it, and then he's actually taken it out of his video, out of his wits now, and I'm like thinking, why is he taking that one out? That one is missing.
Oh,
And
I don't know. I don't know if it's
mhm.
missing or not. I don't know. I know him and I have talked about it, and like because he apologized to me about, um,
Well, okay, it was
but no,
joke.
he
We
wouldn't
can
have done that.
see.
But I'll say this: some people handle being upset, what you may or may not know, or maybe you condone it. But not only has Mary had went after his daughter, his child. He
Mhm.
had,
Yeah, I read
now
that. Yeah.
maybe he handles his anger a little differently than I do, but now I'm a little bit older, so my anger is a lot different now than let's say 20 years ago.
Oh,
So,
Mhm.
AP does handle his
you know,
Yeah.
anger. He does handle his anger differently. He makes documentaries. That's how he handles his
right. I mean,
anger.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and,
it's
and
yeah, and that's a cool way of handling your anger. And
right,
I'm
and
not saying
he and
yeah.
I would think that was more of him just, sometimes we do things in life out of anger at the moment. It doesn't mean. I just see it for what it really is, and it really wasn't. I guess I didn't put too much into that as much as say you did, or
Okay, but
someone else might. I
it
seen it for
appeared to
what it
me.
was.
I have to be brave here. It appeared to me, just looking at it objectively, and I don't care how many people say I'm a Spurk, and
No,
you
you're
know, it
not.
doesn't reflect well on the people in the chat here. You know, to sort of just for somebody, I have. If you look at my comments I've left for Mary, I'm giving her plenty of criticism. I am talking about, and if this is a little bit, I don't know, difficult for you to understand, I'm only referring to the murder case and to one thing that I noticed about something that seemed to me to be disrespectful, and I thought, well, you know, everything it seems to that a lot of this negativity seems to be emanating from Adonis Paul, from that side of thing, from him
No,
basically.
no,
Um,
I wouldn't
so
agree with that. I don't think. I think that's a little
that's how
unfair
it appears to
to
me.
say
That's how
because
it
there
appears
is
to me.
right, and I could with limited knowledge or limited, um, if you with the limited knowledge that it sounds like you've got on it, then I can understand that. But no, I don't agree with that, and probably because I've seen quite a bit more and been around a little bit
Okay.
longer, and I know maybe a little bit more on a more of a personal side than you do. I know about the attacks, and
Oh, well, I'm sure you know
and I
lots
can
more
tell
than me.
you, I can tell you this, and I can say this with 100% honesty and certainty, and with when you come after people's children or grandchildren, then you have unleashed a beast that you
Oh,
truly do
absolutely.
not want to deal with, because there is not a mountain that will get in the way. There you
I agree.
I will move a mountain
Really quick,
to save one of my grandchildren.
I wanted to say thank you to Chase the Train, who has just tipped $10. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oh,
Yes.
that is I can't see the chat, but y'all please support him,
Oh.
and yes, take any kind of pain anybody wants to give me. Please, I'm going to use the word support him and let him know that you
Thank you.
appreciate what
Kathy,
you do.
thank you. Yeah, I'm making sure that we're gonna give you a voice here. We'll make sure that your voice is always heard here. So thank you.
I do appreciate it, but I do not. I would never go on a stream or talk to anyone that I did not feel 100% comfortable with, or that I don't support to the best that I can, or that I don't encourage others to. I may not always agree with something, but I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No.
I'm gonna when I'm a I personally I'm a loyal person. I'm gonna stand with you, or I'm not gonna stand at all. You're not gonna have to worry about looking at me. But
Exactly.
when
Well,
you
I'm only here to support Bobcat.
Thank you. Thank
just
you. Yeah,
there you
he's
go.
taking a nap right
See,
now, but yes, thank you, Melly. Yes. Okay.
but I don't mind hard questions. I don't mind criticism. I guess I've gotten older. I do think about, I'll think about something before I respond to it. If I don't think I can respond appropriately, I don't respond at all. Um, you know, and I've been working real hard on trying to be more, um, just more careful and more. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave a bad legacy or a bad thing either. Now, do I get angry? Oh, you betcha. Do I have to calm down sometimes for days before I ever say a word? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's like I haven't said anything this week because I know that mentally I shouldn't. I shouldn't because I would not be. I would probably say something that I don't want to say, or you know, so I've held back, and it's been hard.
It
I've
is.
tried not to listen to anything that she has said, but I do, and I have. But then I'll shut it all down so that I'm not tempted to say anything and lash it out. I don't want to, and I certainly don't want to right now for personal I just don't want to. I don't feel like I don't want to. So I'm holding back, and I'm just hanging in there, and she can spew, and I mean, she can go on for a little bit longer until I can't take it no more. But I promise I will do everything in my power to contain myself and to control my words. But I will get my meaning.
Thank you for being honest and open with me and asking and answering my questions, which are really just some things. And I think we are both Christians. And there's a spiritual element to this as well. And I think I hope you know that I'm not judging you on anything or thinking badly of you at all. Just genuine questions. And I'm giving Mary. Good.
I don't want no one to ever think badly of me, but there's times when there's some people out there, like for her, whether she thinks bad or good of me at this point is there's too much water under the bridge.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Her opinion doesn't mean anything to me. Now, everyone else's, I don't want to ever leave a bad. I don't want that to be what you think of me.
It's okay.
I don't want that to be what you think of my future children, grandchildren, not children. God knows, not no more children, but grandchildren.
Yeah, they deliver.
I
You get all kinds of them showing up on Christmas morning. Remember?
Oh yeah, we get a lot. Listen, I get kids coming up in here. I don't even know who they are, or where they came from.
Really
And
quickly.
that's okay.
Really quickly, Lock on Stratos has tipped $3, and he said, Mel, keep in mind that Mary has used her own dead brother as a money-making tool and as an emotional tool against Aunt Cathy. I think that's more fucked up than a joke AP made to piss Mary off. Thank you, Lock on Stratos. Thank you. So
she has done some pretty I mean, she at that point when she was doing that, she wanted me gone. She even, she threatened to throw she was saying she's going to put my little sister in jail if I didn't go away. First, it was if I didn't collaborate her story. Then it was if I just didn't go away altogether. And my days of letting other people tell me where to go and not to go, except for as long as I'm not breaking the law, is not that I'm not someone she can push around like that. And I don't know why she even thought in her mind for a second that she could blackmail me like that. Because at this point in my life, if she would have been able to put my sister in jail, which she couldn't, but if she had I'm able to go down and get her out. It really, that's where she failed to forget that what I support all the way, which means I'm not going to back down. I'll just go down and bail her out and hire her an attorney to take care of that problem, because that's where I'm at in life. But for her to think that she can use those blackmail words and threaten me, threaten my grandchildren, threaten my sister, threaten my family, put a 74-year-old woman's address out there and tell people to go get her was going to make me back down. No, it might keep me busy. I'd have probably been busy, but busy don't hurt anyone. I would have had to go bail one out of jail and go sit in front of the other one's house to protect her. I would have been busy, but back down, no, it wasn't. That didn't work. Call me any name you want to. Is that going to make me get upset and run? No, I told my husband it's really kind of fascinating because this. I go on there sometimes just to see what I am that day, to see what Mary's created for me. I mean, she's gave my life color. I thought it was already busy enough, and loose enough, but apparently she's come up with new ways to make me more exciting, and I'm okay with that. Go ahead, because it don't bother me. I've lived my life, and you know it's fine. I don't even feel the need to like to go on there and defend it at all. But now I will defend that I care about my family, my their future, the story she's telling. I'll stand behind. Um, I'll fight. I'll stand up for that for as long as there's breath in my body. And when I'm gone, I done told my daughter and my son. I said, listen, here's my passwords. If she's still on there spewing, go on in there and take that channel over, and y'all keep spreading the truth. Don't lie. And if you're wrong, say you're wrong, but spread the truth. She can't get rid of me through death either. So
You're gonna come back and haunt us.
You know what?
no, I got children that they
Oh,
I wonder.
sorry.
know the truth.
Go ahead.
If I
AST.
could haunt her, I probably would.
Question:
Yes, go ahead.
Have you gotten a chance to see her short video today that had you in it, your name in it?
I'm not. If it was before I came on here, I probably did.
I can cue it up. Which video is it?
Yeah, do that because you have to refresh my memory. Yeah, and don't ever feel bad. You can show whatever she says about me. It's not gonna. Like I said.
Oh, we were
she puts my full.
We were having fun. I was showing the chat her book. So.
Oh yeah, I did see that. But yeah, you should go ahead.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in both of those books, and the second one, my full name is in there.
Okay, so what's the name of the video?
If you support,
as long as you support Cathy, you have no say in anyone else is wrongdoing.
All right, just a second here.
Yeah, because I support abusers and pedophiles and all that good stuff.
Cathy protects a pedophile. Cathy protects a man who beat her baby sister. My sister is being horribly abused.
Yeah.
As long as you support Cathy, there we go.
Yeah, it matters. I wouldn't be upset if it didn't matter. You guys will not come to my channel talking about other people who may have committed a crime in the past while still defending Cathy, knowing that she is defending and protecting an absolute inhuman monster who was my father. She is protecting a man who beat her little sister, handicapped her nephew, and molested all of her nieces. She loves him, and you love her. So you don't get to come to my channel talking shit about anybody else.
Wow. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you all got to see that, I think, didn't you? Yeah.
I did. I seen it earlier
Okay.
today.
Okay, yeah. So I was sharing it
Yeah,
in the chat there. Okay, so yeah. But yeah, she is
you
just
know, well, I don't protect pedophiles,
no.
nor do I protect. In fact, I didn't. I've never admitted to any of that, and I've never said that I loved her father. I never got along with him. I didn't care for him, but like I said, I didn't marry him. He was not my choice. He that I didn't. I didn't have I didn't have a dog in that fight. That wasn't that. He wasn't my choice, and my sister didn't choose my husband either. And I don't have a right to choose hers.
Uh
If I would have thought for one second that he beat or molested, in fact, you guys will hear from her sister when the time's right, which it's coming, and I'm sure she'll have a lot to say about that particular subject. She can answer for that herself, and but I never, and I even talked to my other sisters today just to make sure that maybe I missed something. I didn't miss something, but we had never ever seen him even, be any kind of anger toward the girls. The kids. He never beat those kids that we saw, that I saw, or that I saw evidence of. Now he didn't provide her. Now the other girls don't even. They don't know because they didn't have that luxury of leaving and seeing how the other side of the world lives.
ASD,
They
is there any other video you want me to try to queue up?
So she just posted one an hour ago while we've been on
no,
this stream.
Surface
I
pressure?
haven't seen that one.
Surface pressure? Yeah, I got that one. Yeah, I think I did.
No, there's
There's a new
another
one?
one.
There's a new one?
Yeah, I
Okay.
seen surface pressure right before I came on here.
I tell you what, let me switch
They
out.
deserve
Okay.
they deserve to see the pain they created.
Now you know what, tomorrow, if she thought I was gonna come on here tomorrow is when she was gonna. She
Yeah.
would have went on an ugly rampage. I think tonight would have been is a surprise if she even knows. So she'll probably be up all night again.
She'll wake up in the morning expecting me to live stream, and I'll probably just show North Korean cartoons all day or something like that. I don't care.
But she'll be ready. She was gearing up for tomorrow so she could attack some. She'll attack you and me tomorrow,
Yeah.
and anybody else that's on here. And she'll turn Melody into her she'll take her as her saint, her angel.
Yeah.
No, listen.
She will.
If you read
She
any
will.
of the comments I've left
I
her,
have.
any
I
of
did.
the comments,
I did. I did read them.
right?
No,
So,
but see,
then
she
you will
don't hear.
know. You
Oh,
will
I
know
do.
that
I do. I personally do, but now she will only hear what she wants to hear.
Well,
That's what you
I
don't
can. Yeah.
see. Like,
Well,
no matter what, you could say right now that you despise her, but see, if she heard one word come out of your mouth that she takes as a positive toward her, that's all that she's going to talk about. It's not what you really say. It's not what you really write. It's what she perceives.
Well,
To
yes,
be.
but we always run the risk of that. And if we're not even willing to look at other people's
I
opinions
agree
or
with
other
that.
people's
You'll
narrative,
never
then,
grow.
and if
You
you
never
sort of hear,
grow.
you
Yeah.
never grow. You can't, kind of, how do you know that? Well, anyway, when you can't have civil
You're right.
discourse, then you are, it's difficult for people.
I think the tough thing, Mel, is that there's what we see, and then there's the reality of the situation, right? So
Yeah, but I mean,
if you're
Mike,
watching,
what you base your reality on?
if you're watching if you're watching, say, AP, and
Shit.
you're watching AP's shows, and you're watching Adraz's reactions to those shows, and the back and forth, you would think these are two people that absolutely despise one another. But when it comes to reality, AP will send her $10 and say, "Hey, Mary, do me a
Exactly.
favor. Here's $10. Do me a favor and you make a video disavowing James Robert Clark."
Yeah.
And she takes
What?
that money and made a video for him.
Yeah,
So
he's paid her phone bill numerous times. Him and Royce Lopez have, and JJ, they've all bought her groceries before. You know, they've done more for her than she will probably admit to.
And I
Y-
totally agree, and I can see it. I can see all the
yeah,
horrible stuff she's doing. I have no. This is. Please do not think that I have a problem with Mary and the way that she reacts. I really
it
have.
don't worry. It's like when I first started the channel, there was a comment that just it tore me up at first, and I before I wrote back, I thought about what I was reading because, like I told you, I forget because see, this is a whole different world for me, one I never dreamed I'd be in. I forget that you don't know me, so the perception is what I give you. The only perception you have is what I present to you in my words and in my actions. So I have to look at when I read comments, I think about that. And this one, I'm not going to say her name, but people got really upset with her. But then I was like, no, wait a minute. She is absolutely 100% right because what I presented, I could see why that would be what she'd be saying or asking. And it turned out, I mean, she's a part of all these guys now, and she's a big contributor and a big, she's just the sweetest person. And I'm glad and I'm so thankful that I didn't just brush her off as someone being mean or hateful. Do you know what I mean? She ended up, it helped me to see that it helped me to know that I had to be more um, clear on when I just expect everybody to know me because that's how I am. My door is always open. I've never turned away anyone. I'd never planned to. So I just assume that people just know who I am, but you don't. You don't. You only know what I'm giving you. And I'm giving you, I try to give you who I really am. But I mean, in a little video, I'm going to fall short. I'm going to fall short. But I do, like I said, I do read them and I evaluate why you would think that way or why you see it that way. And there's been one I did tell her, look, lady, you walk in my shoes, you go through what this girl has put me through, and then come back and talk to me. That one I just didn't care if I ever heard from her again. But and I never did, thankfully. But everybody else, the only other comments is the ones I think about. And it's like with you, I didn't I was like, I don't know this like I don't know if she's trying to come at me or she really is just trying to learn the truth about, just trying to get the real deal. And I did read the comments you left. And I was still kind of on the fence, but I would never just brush you off or lash out at you or allow anyone to lash out at you on my behalf unjustifiably. I hope I made sense there.
Who was this
You
directed at me? No, or
anyone. I mean, anyone that would leave a negative comment. I wouldn't want anyone to just be hateful to them until But I'm not saying it right. I'll explain it another day if I live to do it. I
I
don't know
think
how
you
to
explained yourself very well. I'm sure you say that people shouldn't get at people making maybe a slightly critical comment, not a nasty comment. That you actually welcome that. You actually welcome people sort of asking questions.
It
I
helps.
think that,
It broadens
yeah.
me as well. I'm learning as I go. And there's been things that I have put in check for myself, that I have actually, I read these and or I see this And I think, I don't like that about me. I don't like that about me. And I evaluate me daily
Well,
when I get, if everybody said what you want to hear, then you never have a chance to improve the things that you need to improve on. And as long as you're
exactly.
breathing and as long as you're walking and talking, we need to be improving. We need to try to be
Amen.
better people. We got to work on that, and I feel like for me, I wish I would have had this in my life at a much younger age, because I guarantee you I would be a much better person today by having
Even
this
better.
where, yeah, I would have to be better because it helps you see who you are. Now, if you choose not to, and if you choose not to learn from it and change it, well, it's on you. It's on you. But
Exactly.
I do choose to learn because I don't want to leave. Like I said, I don't want to leave a bad legacy. I don't want I don't want one of these kids one day to read that and say, "Well, doggone, that lady had grandma pegged," you know, and she never saw it. Just think how much nicer she might have been if she would have caught the hint. You know, like she'd have realized that she was being that way. I mean, I I've caught myself, thanks to all these people. I've learned that I have a tendency not to like I'm harder than I ever thought I was, and I don't know if I'm using the word right, but like um, I have a tougher outer shell than I thought I really did. I thought I was more loving and open than I realized. So I've tried to work on that. It's not bad to let people see that
Yeah.
you don't have to be hard all the time. It's okay to let people know that you have feelings, or that you get your feelings hurt, or that you make mistakes, that you've done things that weren't always the right thing to do, and that you are sorry and you mean it when you say it. And by saying it and meaning it means you're going to work toward not doing it again. It means you've learned something.
Well,
And
that's a
by
lovely
sharing,
thing to
okay,
So
well, let's see
Jane,
this new video.
yeah, let's hit the video. Let's see what she
Oh
has to
yeah,
Yeah,
say.
let's
yeah,
see.
yeah. This is
Let's
a
see
new
what
one.
we've done now.
Yeah.
I wonder
I saw
what did I
comments
do
saying,
now?
I don't like it when you're like this. I don't like your videos when you're angry and you're sad and you're upset like this.
Oh wow, this is 10 minutes. Oh wow. Hey, like I said, anytime we're watching this and you feel like you need to pause it and say something back to Mary, you just call out pause. Okay? So,
I don't either. I don't like being like this. I don't like being angry. I don't like being sad. I don't like being traumatized. But it's something that
That
I have
made
to
my
live
eyes
with.
roll.
What happened specifically today? I made the video for Bob Saget last night, and people instantly started attacking me, saying, well, this is more proof that Mary loves pedophiles because Bob Saget was a pedophile and she clearly loves him.
say, Bob, everybody's dead down here. Hey, Bob, you got a glass of ice water? Nobody seems to have one down here. That's a little Norm Macdonald joke. I'm sorry, I had to throw it in there for Norm Macdonald and
Well,
Bob Saget. I'm sorry.
that's okay. You felt froggy. You go ahead.
Yeah.
They had no proof he was a pedophile. They just wanted to tear down somebody. And that hurt me. Because that's all you people do is tear down, tear down, tear down.
But then what'd she do? Tear down, went directly for my jugular vein
Yeah.
when I wasn't even in none of that.
That's like a narcissist's favorite cry is to say that you're attacking me, is to when they're the ones that are just doing all the attacking and all the hurting on that, and she's just expert in well, you never gave me what I want, so you're hurting me kind of thing. A classic Veruca Salt syndrome she has. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
she literally went from that Bob Saget video
Mm-hmm.
to attacking me, just out of the blue. Because if I haven't done or said or
She
written or done anything, I've been dealing with other things, and she went immediately. And how many videos? I mean, did she do in the last day and a half? I caught up on them today.
Well, she needed the
Th-
Bob Saget to kind of, use that as the base reference to say, okay, well, Bob Saget did this, so Aunt Cathy did that. Therefore, they are both the same kind of person, and that's anything could be further from the truth on that.
She just went immediately
Mm-hmm.
to just tearing down. But what she doesn't realize is no matter how hard she tries to tear me down, or if people like I've told her before, it did. I don't understand anything about all the views or the um how they make money on here. I have no interest in. I don't know anything about all that. So for me, it was me saying what I need to say. I hoped that someone would hear it behind what she says. I wanted the truth to follow her lies. That was my goal. That still is my goal. I want the truth to follow her lies. I, I don't know why tearing me up or tearing me down thinks that she is going to make me go away, or if y'all go away, does that make me go away? If I I have no one to ever talk to, does she think that I would go away? No,
No,
I have no problem talking to myself.
we're
I do it all the time.
Mary seems to think that, her story is, all over the internet. It's just begun to go all over the internet. If we, Aunt Kathy, if there's the right people out there, I will find a way to introduce you to them so that you can sit down in front of like a national news audience, in front of Dr. Phil, to tell this story so that you have your voice out there, so that your kids can go to a DVR and play Aunt Kathy like 5 years from now and say, yep, there's Aunt Kathy taking apart all of Mary's lies.
She's threatened to drag me by the hair to Dr. Phil.
Oh, let her.
I hope
That'd be
she,
perfect. Like, this perfect
I hope
opportunity
she
for.
doesn't pull it too hard. It
Yeah, it's
could
like,
fall out.
oh,
I'm
it's like,
sorry.
you
Go
pull the.
ahead.
You pull the Brer Rabbit. I was like, oh, whatever you do, Mary, don't take me on Dr. Phil.
Oh, and
Uh,
don't grab me by my hair.
Yeah. And it's like a perfect opportunity for me to do a Dr. Phil impression. Now, we have a saying in Texas: armadillos are the lobster of the highway.
Well, you know what? I joked about it before, but I seriously thought about having someone write something for me. I've had several people offer to help me write
Mm-hmm.
the truth,
Yeah.
from the very beginning, the real truth from the start.
I'll
And
make it.
I've been,
I'll make it a Law and Order script. Like I said, I will make it into a Law and Order episode for
well,
you. Hmm.
well, we could do that, and it'd probably have episodes for a couple of years.
Oh yeah.
So, because we could start a whole new Law and Order,
Oh yeah.
a 10-year adventure. Here,
And you know what? It's weird enough people would actually watch it, I think.
I think they would. I
Yeah.
think the the fascination that I was thinking that all my life. I thought everything that I knew or had known was normal. That everybody in the world was the same.
Hmm.
And it was today. I was sitting with my other sister. We were talking about. We were discussing when we were going to leave and such. And I said, did you ever think that maybe we were jinxed or cursed or just had an evil cloud hanging over us, or um, that we might not be as normal as um, we thought, that not every home in America were like had the problems or the trauma or the grief. I mean, it's like sometimes we get hit hard. I mean, just this week alone has been rough, and it's not over yet. Um, it normally I would have thought, well, this is just the way every home in America is, But I'm beginning to think, well, you know what? They're not. You're right. Law and order might just be the ticket. We could do 10 years. Because people that actually have normal life and don't have a Mary in there,
Mm-hmm.
they might find it quite fascinating.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I've already got the
I,
title. I've already got the title of the episode. It's gonna be called "The Finger of Satan." It's all about how
I feel
her hard drive just mysteriously burst into flames.
yeah, just them, and that her cell phone that she had all them years that I helped pay for just mysteriously never existed.
Yeah.
There's so many. I wish I could find those bills. I tell you, I had them. But anyhow, well, let's finish seeing what she got to say.
Oh yeah, that's
Can't
right.
wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Yeah, we got to get
You
back to it.
hate and claim that you hate pedophiles so much, but then you love people who support and protect pedophiles. My aunt.
Mary, you're trying.
There it is.
Mary, Mary is trying to throw Aunt Cathy under the bus, and Aunt Cathy is wearing like Class 9 armor right now. She's wearing the power armor suit out of Fallout that basically a bus could drive over and nothing would happen to the wearer of the power suit, and nothing would happen to the power
She
suit. So
she has no idea. Has
she.
no idea. She doesn't recall how
Mm-hmm.
many people I have went up against. How many? She just she's forgetting. And these are all
Uh-oh.
court record. I mean, she. But I'm not, like I said, I've never had the need to defend myself like that. So I don't even pay that part no mind.
Okay,
I'm
hold
not
on.
going to
Hold on, stream. It's actually kind of lagging right now, but hold on. So we're gonna go back into the video. So
She
Yeah,
supports and
let's hit
protects
play.
my father. She'll never acknowledge what she knows, proving that she is a pedophile enabler. She knew it was happening when I was a child and did nothing to stop it because it was my mother's choice. Katrina made her choice, and her children just had to suffer.
Well,
what's up? What's up?
well, we know that's well. I know that is. I have said what I know. Um, she just refused to hear it. I've said what I felt that I could say and would say, and I've said with all honesty, I've never seen any abuse on the kids. And I went back and asked them, and now as adults, because she's not the only child,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, you'll be hearing from their take on it eventually here soon. I hope that when they're ready, and I'm afraid it's gonna. Y'all get ready because that she's not gonna take too kindly to anybody else speaking up besides me. I mean, she hadn't even adjusted to me yet.
What I
Yeah.
find
But no,
interesting, what's really what I always find really telling is that depending on what the story is, there's a dramatic change in the level of involvement that you had with her family. So when it came to questioning her behavior, what did you know? You were a million miles away. Like, you didn't know shit because you were never around. But
right.
when it comes to a claim she wants to make on her behest, you were always around and you knew every little thing that was going on in the family. So
Yeah, I would.
there's a lot of contradictory things that go on in her narratives, depending on if it suits her purposes.
Yeah, it's like when she said the first time that she witnessed the actual murder, she was mad and angry, and she was screaming at people, saying, "What do you know? You weren't there. There was only 3 people in that room." She very first. I
Yeah,
can't remember. Yeah, does anybody remember that?
I do.
There was
I
yeah.
remember it. Mm-hmm.
She was a screaming and raging, and she blurts out, "Well, there was only 3 people in that room. One of them's in prison, one of them's dead, and then me." But the next day, she's back outside in the truck. It's only twice that she slipped up.
Yeah.
and said that she saw it. And that the second time was recently, what, yesterday or something?
Yep, the video that the golden clip that I called it, and I
Yeah,
played.
that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, and
That's only the second time.
I was gonna, I want to put it on a USB thumb drive and just mail it to the Florida prosecutors with a nice little note written in crayon that just says "Play me" and a little smiley face at the
Yeah.
bottom on it. So
Well, I tell you, if I end up down there, I'll just go in there with my tablet and say, "Here,
yeah,
listen to
why?
this.
Pull it up,
Here, let's play
Yeah,
this."
you got to pull it up on Hatman's channel on Tardanomicon, because in case Mary decides that she has to delete it from her channel, it's now archived. The internet never
It's
forgets.
That's right, and I'm so thankful because all those threats have
Mhm.
been saved,
Yeah,
all of them.
yeah.
Well, what else have I done today?
Mm. Oh, Aunt Cathy, imagine if you had your own CBDX code right now. your
Well,
CBDX code would
I probably need.
it probably, yeah, you probably could use some right now, but I'm not going to go into that whole spiel. But
I could
You
probably
know,
use those gummies. I could.
can I just put this out there,
Yeah.
just for a little bit of humor because we've been
Uh-oh.
so serious. I don't think anything would make Mary angrier than if Aunt Kathy had her own CBDX code and was getting free weed. She's got to scrounge for
Oh
$5
yeah.
to get her.
Oh yeah. That would infuriate her, especially because she knows I don't smoke it. Now I have, I would. Somebody had given me a gummy. Uh, and I have to say it wasn't bad at all. I slept like a baby that night. Well, a baby that's not crying, not a colicky baby, a real calm baby. I slept like a little calm fat baby, and I'm like, I don't know where you got that from, but you got any more in that purse of yours? So, you got any more of those? Because I don't like the taste. I never did like that taste of smoking marijuana
Yeah.
and stuff. So
Yeah.
the gummy was like,
Real
it was good. It was sweet, and
Mm-hmm.
I was having some anxiety, and it was like, no, you just go lay down, and I did, and like I said, I slept like a calm, well-fed, well-loved little fat baby dreaming of chasing the ice cream truck
Well,
on that gummy.
I think that makes more sense. Anytime that Mary asks for money for weed on her channel, we just give $5 to Kathy. Is that
Yeah,
really
and
driving us?
I'll
I
just
think
give
that's
it
really
back to you. I'll just give it back to you.
that's actually the better punishment, honestly.
Yeah, here, you take this back, baby doll. Go get you some gummies. Y'all go
There you
get
go.
you some gummies and some weed,
Yep.
and
There you
call
go,
it a
Mary.
gift from me.
Okay, I'm
You
gonna.
gotta get with JJ and see if they can get an Aunt Kathy code for CBDX.
Yes, yes, it'll be the biggest code of them all. Everybody will be using that code. So,
We just we got to recycle the gummies. I got to share the love with everybody, but
yeah.
one. No gummies for one.
Oh, that's gonna burn. That's gonna burn Mary when she hears that you got high off of a gummy. She's gonna be like, well, my Aunt Kathy was a drug.
I told y'all.
Yeah. My Aunt Kathy is a
You'll be back on that.
hypocrite.
I'm a drug addict.
Yeah.
But and I'm gonna tell you that was the best night little sleeping I've done in a long time. So call me what you will.
There you go.
But I like raspberry.
Oh, hey, there you go. All raspberry gummies. All raspberries.
Yeah, just call me.
And then you just
call me what you will.
And then
That's too funny.
And then the in joke is that you put your photo on it and you just have you blowing a raspberry to Mary.
With long flowing curly hair still intact because she didn't get to rip it out, getting me on Dr. Phil. And being just mellow like a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah.
The very
the Raggedy
idea
Ann.
that you people
If Jamie's still here, just to answer your question, when you said if traumatized, abused women generally stay and comply or enable abusive partners, how do we tell the difference between that versus an active participant like a Rosemary West, or you're probably talking about like Carla Homolka and Paul Bernardo? So the difference is that usually when you have an active participant, there's some level of shared trophies, and one of the duo tends to keep a record of their crimes, and they generally share that for a situation for sexual gratification, so that one of them always ends up keeping something. So when you have the abusive partners, typically when they are feeling as though that they are safe, they quickly turn, and they don't necessarily enable, they just fear for their life. Um, and then you have other situations where things just get out over your head and you go, oh shit. Like in Mary's situation, where I think that she, again, I don't think that she ever thought that this guy would do that. I think she definitely thought that she could bully her way in and bully Roberta out.
Right.
And she was like,
Right.
oh man, this guy's an idiot. Like, she wasn't expecting what occurred. But
No, I truly believe that she wasn't. She was just throwing it out there, and her point was get rid of her, um, roll her out the door, and I'll be your wife. And even though I'm still married to someone else, kind of thing.
The crime did happen on her birthday, so that had to have been.
Yeah, it was.
And I thought of a theory is that she laid a guilt trip on Kenneth by mentioning something about Bubba. Could have said something to the effect of, well, Bubba lived until he was only 22, and he never had a merciful end to his life. He suffered. Do you want Roberta to suffer the way that Bubba suffered? You're a horrible monster if you're wanting Roberta to suffer the way that my Bubba suffered. And meanwhile, Kenneth is just sitting here, kind of just racked with all of these confusing thoughts. Tears are probably streaming down his eyes right now. He can't think of what to do. And then he snaps and does the wrong thing and decides that he's going to do the deed for Mary. So that's kind of my thinking on that.
Well, now that's pretty dramatic. But I think here's what I think. She kept on about, if you loved me, you would get rid of her. Today's my birthday, and my grandmother had to pay for our dinner. You didn't even buy me anything for my birthday. The least you can do is go in there and make her leave. Is this what you're going to do for my birthday? I got to go in there and sleep in the other room and pretend on my birthday, if you really loved me, if you really cared about me, I'm pregnant. I believe she used every tool in that toolbox to get what she wanted.
Dark Summer also makes a good point that the code can't be Aunt Cathy. The code has to be Cathy 1.
Yeah, yeah, she can't stand that. She can't stand that. I thought that was the funniest thing. I thought that, I didn't even know anything about none of that. I was in Hatman's chat, and I think he said that, and that was when she's climbing in the refrigerator. I didn't know that girl was doing all that. I had no idea, and I didn't know what the world I won. I'm still waiting on my ribbon. I don't have my ribbon yet. Don't you get a first place ribbon or something?
Blue ribbon at the county fair. I mean,
Yeah.
Hey, we got to have a lolcow fair. A lolcow fair sooner or later. Like a little lolcow fair. We'll we got the racetrack. We'll put like a little Ferris wheel and a little roller coaster and things like that. So it'll be like fairgrounds racing. But
well, if it's a local fair, though, she's going to get the blue ribbon.
Oh yeah, she'll definitely get the blue ribbon. Yeah.
First place, I think. So I guess I could be the presenter. Kind of like Miss America, they give up the crown.
Yep, exactly.
Every year they have to recrown.
Yeah,
I don't really want.
We'll bring you to the
Yeah, I can.
Lolcow State Fair. There you go.
I can be. I can be the princess. Okay,
Mhm.
y'all go with it.
Oh
We're
yeah.
gonna go with it. I'm gonna be the princess that gives her the crown, the blue ribbon for being the locale of the century.
I'm gonna go back to the video here. So
Protect
Okay,
and
yeah, do
love
that because I done
pedophiles,
went to
but then
fantasy world.
accuse and hate for the same thing, for pedophilia. That isn't proven. It's hypocrisy. It's so much hypocrisy. And it just broke me. I broke last night, and then I went to sleep, and I woke up at 8 a.m. this morning, and I was still broken. Those thoughts were still eating me alive. That all of these people who support my aunt also, just anything I do, they're going to hate me. They're going to push me to try to hurt me. And this morning it did finally push me over because there's so much support for my aunt, and she is so supportive of an abusive motherfucker. After I made videos this
She's
morning,
morphing.
yeah, she is. She
She's
is.
morphing.
Mm-hmm. She's trying to think of what angle can I play in, now what angles have I not used, what angles do I need to use, kind of thing. She's just trying to
Yeah,
think of how do I make this story sound as twisted and depraved as possible. How do I connect Bob Saget to Aunt Cathy and make it seem like they're both equally monsters, kind of thing. So she's working
yeah.
all of her
And how does it
yeah.
justify?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's got to justify her behavior. Like she said, it just broke her.
Yeah.
I mean, it just broke her, and it caused her to turn into what we all see.
Yeah. She's just a narcissistic monster who, if you don't give her what she wants, she screams, carries a fit, claims you're abusing her, and will just, hate you until the day that one of you dies, kind of things. So it's
Yeah,
an
I think
go ahead.
I couldn't figure yet when I got up today and I seen all that. I couldn't understand how she had put the two together. She went from that little string she did uh, to all that saying about just trying to turn me into this huge monster. I couldn't connect it, but then I got thinking about I was in chat yesterday on Hatman's stream, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that said she didn't want to bring him up, so it was like, what was the thing that she could? So I don't know. I just think she was lashing out. She was just pissed off that I guess I'm still alive, and she couldn't just tear him apart because there's some of them she's afraid to tear apart.
I think she's afraid to tear me apart. The closest that she's ever come to saying my name is to call me that ugly motherfucker with the ranch. But then again, she could also be talking about JJ Stoner. But I know that secretly she wants to talk about me. I mean, I'll give it. I'll take that I'm the ugly motherfucker with the ranch because
Yeah,
I'm the more
and
recognizable
she said,
ranch. Yeah.
yeah, and she said that she was that you were trying to raise money, and of course I'm supporting you on it
Hmm.
to give to the guy that the truck that she destroyed.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
guy in the
She
military.
she did
Yeah,
bring up the
and I
truck.
I
Yeah.
did laugh about that. Yeah, I think I did comment to her that no, silly. He wasn't gonna give the truck to that guy. He was actually gonna keep it and drive it. He's not raising the money for that boy that let you do all that damage to his truck. It's for himself. I mean, that poor kid knew what he was doing because he knew her.
Yeah.
He
Well,
knew it, but why would you go and try to get a brand new truck to give to some guy that knew what he was putting in that truck? he knew what he was letting. He knew what was going to happen. He
Yeah,
probably had hoped that she would have a little more respect for it, but um, he didn't. I think he knew better. I really do.
I'm gonna go back to the video
Wait,
here. So,
he
oh,
had to unfreeze that
yeah,
face.
yeah.
At 8 a.m., I went back to sleep because I was aware that I was being unstable, that I was flying off and I was not able to control it. I woke up so angry because y'all sent me to bed so angry.
You know what? I'm pausing it here just for a moment. The other day, when she posted a video at roughly 7 p.m. Pacific time, and she said, just the title of the video just said, I hate alcohol, we instantly could deduce from watching it, before going on stream with it, she was having, she was hungover at 7 p.m. Hungover at 7 p.m. her time, when normal time to be hungover is like what, 9, 10 a.m. It's like, she's already got like a 14-hour head start on her hangover.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's,
probably because she's drinking all day.
yeah, that banana rum that she can get for like $2 a little micro bottle that she wants to do. And that's in Kentucky.
At
Yeah,
99.
yeah. In Kentucky, they actually ban the sale of liquor that's in those little tiny bottles, because it's considered liquor by the drink, and liquor by the drink has to be sold in a bar, and it has to be poured by a bartender to you, kind of thing. So you can't get the little bottles.
Oh,
It's maddening like that. But other states you can get them, and
Lord.
it's not really that big a deal. But Mary is the kind who obviously loves those little liquor bottles. And you'd see the little 99 rums or Southern Comfort or Fireball or, whatever, just, cheap booze. It's going to get you drunk. Hell, I've seen it at the bus stop where they will have like, they will have finished little bottles of vanilla extract. They will drink vanilla extract because it's gonna get them that little, bit of alcohol buzz to them. So, would it
Yeah.
surprise? Do you think that if Mary had no other choice, that she would go to vanilla extract?
Oh, yeah, she would.
Mm,
Well, I'm not gonna go into it, but I'm pretty sure she's drank a few bottles in her
yeah,
life
yeah, yeah.
uh, that I know of.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm gonna get back to the video here. So, but yeah, it was just an interesting note that she's used alcohol as her substitute now, and now she admits that alcohol just makes her angrier. That's part of her problem. She needs to get alcohol rehab as quick as possible on this. So, her body will eventually say it's time for rehab before her brain will. So, anyway, I'm gonna get back to the video. So.
Okay, let's see.
And I slept again from 8 to 11, and then I woke up wanting to cry. Still angry, but also just wanting to sob. This time of the year is extremely difficult for me. You know that. That's why they chose this time of the year specifically to begin the harassment last year. Because it's well known that I suffer an anniversary reaction every year around this time. And so they chose to harass and bully me at the time when they knew that I was the weakest, because they thought that they would be able to push me to finally end my life. And Adonis paused in the comments and said, "Well, I haven't said
chosen.
anything in a
Oh,
week."
okay. Yeah, here. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. What's up, Aunt Cathy?
I mean, nobody pushes her to end her life. Then, I mean, they might, if there was one or two people that said that to her, you know, I think that's awful to tell somebody. First of all, you don't say that.
Right.
But nobody that's associated, I believe, with anyone that I've spoke with or you or any would do that. I've heard them repeatedly give her the hotline numbers and tell her that they don't condone that at all. They don't want her to kill herself. I mean, if you think reasonably about it, if I did a show like y'all do where you're reviewing people and you're searching the internet for people acting stupid, and it's not hard to find them. I mean, they're not picking. Y'all don't. I don't ever see you choose someone to to talk about that is doing the right thing in this world, who's going on there doing good things. You're not out there showing. I mean, she's she doesn't realize when you act like this, she's going to always be a target. James will always be a target
Mm-hmm.
because he gets on there and does stupid and says stupid things, and all it takes is a we need things to laugh at, and if they choose to continue to get on there, if I got on here dressed up like Cinderella, a grandma Cinderella, prancing around in slippers, trying to make somebody shove my foot into a slipper that don't fit and put it on YouTube, and daily did something ridiculous like that, well, you're going to start laughing at me.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to start laughing at me. It's not going to have the reaction that maybe I want. Maybe I'm looking for Prince Charming to come to the door. And repeatedly, people like her have been told, don't do this. Do something else. Don't need to get on here and act like this to get what you want. But see, they don't listen, and they're not going to. It, I don't know where I was going with that.
It's okay.
They pick the spot for themselves. If I ever find myself on the other end, guess what? I'm not gonna get on there and do that stupid thing no more.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get on there and act like that no more, unless that's the kind of attention I want.
I'm just like of the opinion that I'm kind of glad that I learned to become an adult and rid myself of my childish ways, kind of thing. It's just and you see it in other people. You see it in James. You see it in Mary. You see it in everybody else that's on everybody else's streams, and you see um how determined they are to get attention, but they don't see that the attention that they're getting is not the right kind of attention. They don't want to be remembered for being, the loud, Spurg who puts a feather in his hair and screams about how science is like killing people. Did you watch that? Did you watch Demi and McKinley that we had on last night?
I don't think I did. I don't. I think I
He's
slept most of the day yesterday.
Oh, it's okay. He's a spicy lolcow. He's got some fire to him, and that's just it. It's like
I'll
everybody,
have to catch it.
yeah, everybody they they go on YouTube, they make videos because they don't want to die and be forgotten by the rest of the world. They want to leave something that, is going to say, I was here, I made this video. Look at this series that I made, and then, judge me after I'm gone kind of thing. That's what everybody goes on YouTube with the kind of mindset of. That's Adrazia's mindset. Every video she thinks is going to be that one video that's going to instantly get like 100,000 views in like 10 minutes. And yeah, and she puts so much effort into the anger that she has, that she she overlooks the fact that she's just making videos that are not getting her the desired results. They're getting other people the desired results because she's a lolcow on people's lolcow ranches now. So but she is,
See,
yeah, yeah.
she originally started out as when she was I don't know how old she was. She wasn't quite grown yet. She was getting close to being of age. But her goal, she wanted to hitchhike, to California.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to document. And I think her whole thing, I know her whole thing was that she would sell this documentary of her doing this and portraying someone with severe, um, basically conning people. It was like she's actually living her dream with one exception. She always thought that she would have plenty of money in her backpack that in case she needed to get a ride or, you know, whatever she needed, she would have it there as her backup plan. Now, as childish and crazy as that sounds, but that was her whole plan. She thought that she would document this journey and she would become famous. She would be on talk shows and she would write these, you know, she would be famous. And well, she did do what she said. She did hitchhike, you know, she got to California and she has documented it. The only problem is when she put herself in that mindset that maybe that day she got more money when she was acting like a certain way. She's just used it so much it's becoming part of who she is. So whoever she ever was, any part of her, the calmness, she slowly pushed it so far back that she's becoming exactly what she's been portraying.
California
You know, it's like it's consuming her.
California lets her be the Mary that she wants to be, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But she's, you know, I think for her that one day she thought, well, I'll be on stage. I'll be this millionaire who made this fabulous, you know, career documenting, and I'll be able to show them my superior intelligence and how I convinced these people, you know, that I was this way, and I'll be able to come out as this intelligent person who documented this journey and convinced so many people that I was like this. But what's happened is she has become this because she's done it so much every day. You know,
Exactly
you
like
know, if you,
James. Exactly like James.
yeah, she's convinced. Her consciousness is changing into what started out as an act or just something she did that day. You know, it's like it's consuming her. And so she's becoming exactly what she had portrayed temporarily.
Mhm.
She hasn't achieved that fame yet, but she'll never give up. She'll
I'm
never give up.
I'm never giving up either, but I'm pursuing my fame in the correct channels. So that's how I'm trying to
Yeah.
do it. So, and I'll show you a sample
Yeah.
when we get off stream here of like my writing, so that you'll know, hey, I can actually put this together. So, okay, I'm gonna go back to her
I
video.
wish I could write.
Oh, no, it's not. It's not that.
Yeah,
It's
good.
not as hard as you think. 90% of it is just you gotta 90% of it is just like the format for me, because you got to learn how to like write for like a television show, and you got to like but once you start to do that, then the rest of it, story comes easy, because you could just translate what real life experiences you've had into this format, and it's just like once you know how to do that, then your mind becomes like an ATM machine that you can just draw from whenever you need to. That a friend of mine who was a writer, he said that being a writer is like having an ATM that's inside your brain. And that's the mentality that I want to have, is to be the writer and to have like an ATM inside my brain that I can just draw from whenever I need to. But
Yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I think when she didn't intend to spend so much time trying to tear down
Mhm.
me because I was the one that spoke up, you know, that knew the truth. But she's letting that consume her, and it's like why she her like you said, you're doing it the right way,
Yeah.
and she's done got off of doing it anyway, but now it's all for her to shut the truth out.
Yeah.
Because I heard her say today that I paid her sisters that I paid her sisters to not speak up for her. In exchange for that, then she could have her story. But yet I reneged and not letting her have her story now.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, no, she's just grasping at. It's just getting crazy. It's
I know.
getting crazier.
I know. Hey, I'm going to finish this video here because I know it's getting late for you, and I don't want to keep you up all night because we'll probably be up.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so let's get back to the video here. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
So it's not my fault. Now, you made 3 movies about me that are
Soon to be 4. Mary, soon to be 4, and we are
is it?
yeah, well, we are witnessing the creation of Mayo 4 practically in real time because of all of these clips that we're just gathering now, and all of this material that's going to eventually be used for Mayo 4. So, Mary, you just keep making the material that just keeps making the documentaries for you. So, jeez.
all lies.
No, not all lies.
You're the main reason that Bernice Morgan knows I exist. Just because you've stopped doesn't extinguish everything that you have already put into play. The thousands of people that you have convinced that I'm a bad, liar, horrible person that deserves to suffer and die. You ignited that fire. And then you walked away from it and said, well, it's not my fault if it keeps burning.
Actually, Mary, you ignited the fire in the live streamers. Okay? When you put out these videos, and then, first you're reacting about, being called out for putting mayo in your hair, which, I get it. We all do dumb, stupid pranks. I did like an ice bucket challenge, but Mary, if you just learned to kind of let that go, nobody would have ever discovered anything deeper about you. You had to go making it about you. You had to go insisting that we were hurting and abusing you. And that's the classic sign of a narcissist. Okay? When we recognize the classic sign of a narcissist, that's when we have to go a little bit deeper in our digging. And we have to decide, oh, okay, well, let's see what else we can find. What else is out there? That's when we discovered about Roberta Laws and Kenneth McBride and about Tara. Okay? Mary, you have left all of these breadcrumbs out there, this trail of breadcrumbs that's 1.5 miles wide and 100 miles long, and you have no idea of the damage that you've done to yourself, and you insist that it's damage that we've done to you. And anything could be further from the truth on that. Whew.
And even before JJ Stoner, there was different. There was other people. There was different groups of people that she was doing this to. The same. I mean, it's always been somebody, and she don't let nothing go. She's got to chew on it until it ain't much to chew on, or someone else comes along. And then JJ Stoner came in the picture, and that that opened up a whole world for her that she didn't, she couldn't chew down. I mean, she's choking on it.
Yeah. Now
She forgot. Take
she
little bites.
she opened up the Pandora's box by reacting badly to a joke, to a simple little joke. Okay, you put mayo in your hair. Oh, that's a joke, and they'd have gone on, and you'd have been 100 lolcows behind, and for completely forgotten. Everybody'd be talking about like Trisha Barbie or whatever, and nobody would be talking about you anymore. But you had to make it about you. Whew.
She wouldn't let it go.
She wouldn't.
She would not let it go, and really, when she wouldn't let that go, because I saw that episode. I mean, because I saw something that connected me to it, was because she didn't let it go. It gave us the opportunity to pop in there like that, because that came first. If she would have just let it go, or just said, well, look, I was just trying to be funny, I was just making a joke, it would have been over. and in return, she would have never encountered us because they wouldn't have been talking about her, and I wouldn't have felt comfortable,
Yeah.
going in the chat or pushing my daughter to go on there and speak for us. And
Mm-hmm.
bless her heart, she did good though.
Yeah. Bless her heart. So, all right, back to the
Yeah.
video.
Just real quick,
Yeah, go ahead. Go
the
ahead.
thing that always gives Mary away is that when she talks about her diagnosis, when I've worked with people who have specific diagnoses, the one thing that almost every single one of them have in common is they actually never justify their behavior on their diagnosis. They believe that their behavior is correct, and they don't say that was because of my schizophrenia or my
Oh,
schizoaffective
I
disorder,
see.
my bipolar disorder. They don't utilize that as a cop out. If anything, they usually disavow their diagnosis. Whereas she's like
Right.
embraced this notion of diagnosis and uses it as
Her reasoning.
interchangeably whatever search wherever she needs. And she
Yeah.
usually utilizes it as an added thing of saying, how dare you attack a person with this
Mm.
illness to make it
Right.
seem like we're such horrible people. The thing is that the vast majority of think about all the people we've looked at, Vance. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you went and you go through every one of Damien's videos or almost every one of James's videos, they denounce the notion that they're sick
You're right.
because that's what the vast majority of ill people that I've ever worked with, and we're talking about at this point probably it's been like almost 30 years. So probably looking at about 6,000 people, 7,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
I've maybe had 2 that actually were ill that would talk like Mary.
That I'll tell you in the simple terms my mom used to say, because I would be like, she'd tell me the people who really have issues or I'm gonna say the word crazy. I don't believe she did, but they don't know they're crazy, so they're not gonna walk around telling you they're crazy. They don't announce it, because they don't really realize that they're nuts. She said the
So
ones that run around announcing it are the ones that are using it as an excuse.
when
And she'd say,
when
and crazy people live longer because they don't worry about nothing.
to a degree, I mean, even people like deep in their recovery, there's still aspects of their illness that they do not attribute to their illness, that it's separate. Whereas for her, she demonstrates absolutely no symptoms of the various diagnoses that she's indicated that she has. She's demonstrated none.
Well, she hasn't learned that
Really?
part, but when she sees a doctor, she just knows what to tell them to get the answer that she wants. But if you ask if she's ever had brain scans or whatever, I don't know what tests that on the brain that would give someone a definitive diagnosis. If she's never had none of that, she just goes in and she tells them, well, I feel this way, and this way. She already knows what they're going to say because she's already looked it up and studied it and Googled it, and she's already worked it out. Like if this sounds better to her, like there was that time where she was